It's Grapsody, what Will, Phil, and Reg, trying to keep it real instead of what you usually get from these talking heads. It's Grapsody, we're here to fill the void. 3 black fans, different perspective, gotta fill your voice. Coming with the podcast, talking majors, indies in between. Yeah, it's all that, and we're down with Fightful, better fall back. Coming for respect, we connect like a ball bat. No need to double check, these are all facts. You're listening to what's talk raps. You're listening to what's talk raps. Will, Phil, and Reg. Yeah, we're Grapsody, here to talk raps. Yeah, we're Grapsody, here to talk raps.
All right, it's time to go to work.
What is that?
What the hell's going on here? What is happening here?
I don't know. I found a John Cena towel, and so I went and grabbed it. Hey, welcome to Grapsody. It's Saturday. What's the date? What's the date? September 24th. I'm with Washington.
Starting out coming in hot.
Yep, and Philip Lindsay's also here.
With this mess.
with the John Cena. Come on, never give up.
God, I gave up. I give up.
Nah.
Da, 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 da.
Nah, I gave up. I gave up. Nah.
I feel like that's how his career needs to end, by the way. He has to tap out or like submit or something. Like that is that is the true John Cena ending. It has to end with him giving up. And so I have thank you.
Oh, yep.
I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, and cameo appearance by Veda Washington. Hey, but also Righteous Reg is here.
Right, ratings are going up when young Veda enters the building. It's your boy, Media Man, Righteous Reg,
sure.
Your favorite rapper, your favorite writer, your favorite podcaster. Hip hop is dominating all the industries. You wake up and you open your eyes, and hip hop is doing something. We're in the building. We've come a long way. We've come so long from the days of being shunned for combining the two of professional wrestling and hip hop.
I had a question to ask you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
So I know, Reg, you grew up with a younger parent, so may not apply. I don't know about you though, Phil, but see, my dad was like way older, right? I have like a significantly older dad. My dad was 45 when I was born, right? So like that man turns 80 this February. So I had to deal in my love and affinity for hip hop with him telling me at every turn, because this is just how old black men operated, that, oh, it's just a fad, that stuff's going to pass, right? Because like you ever watch like the old Soul Train documentaries, and Don Cornelius was like just anti hip hop. He did not want hip hop on Soul Train because he's like, look, this stuff is setting us back, and it is not. He's like, it's gonna pass. It's not soul music. It's not gonna last. And so it took him forever. Like Soul Train didn't embrace hip hop till like the 90s, right? Like that was.
Right. So you had Shamar Moore on there.
Yeah. But Don Cornelius, he was straight up like, we are not doing hip hop. It's not gonna happen.
Right.
That's how my dad. When I heard him say that in that documentary, I was like, that's my dad. Okay. Like it finally makes sense, and there was just a generation of older black folks that just were not having hip hop.
They were like, nah, it's never gonna happen.
Yeah, so I don't know. I had to deal with that pretty much at every single turn, where no matter what I was listening to, I had my dad walk in, and he's just like, he's like, there's no soul in that, and I'm like,
Yeah. So my dad, who by the time I started buying my own music was out of the house, was a rap fan. He liked Big Daddy Kane and all that stuff. But my mother, of course, was like big stick in the mud, didn't want me to listen to any rap, hated all the cursing in it. And this was at the time of the parental advisory. You had to, of course, show your ID to buy music and all that other shit. And so every time I had music, I had to like either keep it in my headphones or like try to make sure she wasn't in the house. And I would always play stuff loud on the stereo in the front room when she wasn't at home. And I have to always remember to take my CDs out of there, because it was like a 5-disc changer. So I always had to remember to take my disc out of there before she got home. Or, she'll turn it on. Like, classic one day, I was in the bathroom, and I can hear it all the way downstairs. Speaking of, like, we just talked about word of mouth last week. And so I get all the way downstairs. The royal penis is clean. Your
Oh
Highness.
no.
Yeah, motherfucker. And she like, what is it?
That Ludacris album starts so wild too. Oh no. That's
Definitely got in
hilarious.
trouble that day.
Oh
And
yeah.
I was just like, oh man.
you
Well,
on punishment. You on big punishment after that one.
See, you know what was funny was, I guess, to bring it full circle, my mom was like, anytime my dad just ragged on hip hop, my mom was the one who would come in and be like, she's like, let them have their thing. Like, as far as my brothers and I were concerned, she's like, just let them have this. Like, stop bragging on their shit, right? But the thing my mom hated more than anything was professional wrestling. My mom, especially in the early 2000s, she would come in and, of course, it was always the wrong time, right? She'd walk in and there's a bikini contest happening or somebody's barking like a dog. Yeah, yeah. My mom's like, turn that shit off. And I'm like, Mom, nope, turn it off. Okay. And then my dad's the one turning around like, it's fine. It's just pro wrestling. So I just think it's funny that that's the way this all comes full circle. My dad hated hip hop. My mom hated pro wrestling. The two things that meant the most to me.
Jeez Louise, what a contrast in life right there. Yeah, no, Will said it right. My mom was young, so there was definitely NWA playing. There was definitely Rakim playing. For a while, her favorite album was the Dub C album for some reason. And then after a while, she really got into Plies. So, I mean, there was no bounds. My mom was listening to whatever is wild, the wildest shit. Like when Plies is on, it's like, don't listen to this, Mom. This is weird.
yeah, I can't picture my mom at the time listening to Plies. Plies is Plies is definitely a choice.
I'm saying, man, how do you find Plies? Yeah, baby.
But I'll say this. Speaking of wrestling and hip hop, we're not alone today on today's episode
Perfect
of
way to
Grapsody.
start it. I'm saying, man, I knew this hip hop influence is all over the place, and we are doing it here today.
Yes, we are, because we've got a special guest with us today. It's our dear friend, almost a mentor of sorts.
Definitely.
He is the one and only. Oh, let's swap him around. Emilio Sparks.
There he is. That's him.
Yeah, so this guy has been busting my balls for the longest about not having him on our podcast. So if you're gonna introduce this guy, you've got to introduce this guy correctly. This is not just a podcaster. This is a guy that has put on for a lot of guys. In a lot of ways, this guy is like the Khaled of wrestling. He kicked the door down.
Speak on
and put the hinges in the fuckboy's hands.
Oh,
you know what? He taught me that I could put the hinges in the hands too. I don't know if this dude has sons out there, but in his podcasting thing, he's got a lot of sons, man. He's opened the door for a lot of guys, man. This guy's been in the room. I've seen him in action. He's been in a room with select few are able to go.
It's a fact.
Nah, man, this guy's come on.
The only person I've seen that at AEW shows you can't walk around. The only person I've seen that is walking around, no seat. He doesn't have an assigned seat. He's just there, down there in the area, being wherever he wants. That's Emilio.
No, man. Look, man. Check his resume, man. Come on, man. He's worked with the best, man, and appreciate you coming on, bro.
I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you, Phil Lindsay. It's about time I got an invite. Just saying, pal. Just saying, Phil Lindsay. You know,
are you outside?
It's crazy.
Yeah, B. We yardcast out here, man. It's nice out.
Oh my God. It's because you have so many podcasts. You have to switch up all your areas because every time you pop up somewhere, it's somewhere different. I saw you with Rosenberg and Rory. Like, how do you get these combination of people together? How does these things work? How is Emilio? What's Emilio's schedule like? Because you're producing some very, very, very popular podcasts. Some people's favorite podcasts are produced by Emilio Sparks. Like, what's up?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for such the kind platitudes. I appreciate all of that. It's very nice of you guys because I love this show and I individually love y'all, and I think you guys are fantastic, and what you do in this space is incredible.
Thank you.
But what do? I don't know, man. It's just a matter of always like keeping pressure and trying to be like Smith and Wesson would always say in Buck the World, they had a saying, it's got to be like the last album, but only better. So when I always tell my clients, it's got to be like the last episode, but only better. Right. So it's just never not apply pressure. You feel me? Like always do better, always act better, always say better, always get a better guest than the last guest. No matter what, like let's just constantly keep on going. I live on my laptop. I live on my phone. I'm checking email constantly. Phil can attest to it. When him and I chat on the phone, I'm editing a podcast. Like my laptop's never not open. You know what I mean? And I work for myself. So when I left WWE, I made a conscious decision that, okay, I'm going to leave here and I'm going to make my mark even more. You feel me? So it's just like, let's work hard. So it's always a thing that I'm doing. And plus I believe, you got to have that work ethic. So you got to work. And I don't know. It's just, I'm blessed. I could say that to the point where I think my resume has opened up a lot of doors, but I also think my personality and candor has opened up a lot of doors as well. Do people know like, oh, okay, developed the WWE podcast and network, you know what I mean? He was one of 3 people. It was all like a lot of his brain involved in that. Then he goes to DJ Khaled's podcast. Shout out to Kaz. Then Renee, Gallows and Anderson, Peter Rosenberg. So like I have a real eclectic group of people in my resume that have really supported me after I dipped out of where I was working. So,
that's a wild resume.
This is absolutely a wild week to have you on as well, because as I talked to you on the phone the other night, I was like, yeah, my boss and your boss like had it back and forth. I was like, yo, what's going on?
Yeah. Before we touch in that, I was listening in when y'all were talking about, hip hop and, Reg, your mom was listening to Plies and Busted Baby and, all of that. And I guarantee you she was probably listening to Baby Bash at one point too. You feel me?
California, man. California, we had to. Like Baby Bash was dominating the radio at one point.
I mean, how can you not? You even listened to the chopped and screwed version of what was his one hit? I forget.
You got me lifted to
Sugar, how'd you get so fly? Yeah.
So true story about that real quick. That's one of Carl Anderson's favorite records.
Are you serious?
Like it was, I think it's at the point where he will go on Instagram if he's like listening to it and tags Baby Bash because I guess they're like acquaintances or friends or something. So like you'll see Carl Anderson when he's in his truck lamping around like Tampa. You'll hear like "Sugar, how'd you get so fly?" and he'll tag Baby Bash and then he'll flip the camera over and he goes, "Yup, gets none greater, hoot, Baby Bash."
Baby Bash and Carl Anderson, a combination.
Right.
I never thought I'd say those 2 names together ever.
Nope.
Right. No, that's just what it is. And I laugh at him and I go, there's more out there. And he's just like, it's what the wife likes. It's what I like. It takes us back to the club scene in Cincinnati.
It takes us back to the club scene.
Things are happening. A lot's going on.
So y'all were talking about your parents. My dad is the reason why I listen to hip hop. Now, my old man, just straight old Italian, just dude, right? What the hell would he know about hip hop? He comes home one night, throws a CD on my bed, no cassette, and he goes, "Here, I think you would like this." They were bumping this in the on the construction site. My dad's a gruff construction worker. It was 36 Chambers. It was Wu-Tang Clan.
Wow.
I was like, "Dad, did you listen to this?" He was like, "No, just whatever, enjoy." All right, cool. Bring the motherfucking ruckus, and that was it. It was off to the races and whatnot for me. And then I remember my mom was the reason why I got the purple tape. It was just one of those things, like anything you can imagine.
Your fam just like Wu-Tang. That's all it is.
Yeah. Well, it's Staten Island, so it's a Staten Island. Right. It's a New York thing. Island. No, but they were the gateway to everything for me because you live in a little bubble. You're about maybe 7, 8, maybe 9 max. I am. And I didn't know who else was what. So when you listen to all this stuff and then you're with your friends and you're starting to say, "Hey, do you have this? Do you have that?" Wu-Tang was the gateway for me to walk in through the door and listen to everything else. Like I found Mobb Deep because of Raekwon. I found Biggie because of Method Man.
Right.
You feel me? So it's like I was able to go from there and go, boom, okay, now I'm going to get into Black Moon. Okay, now I'm going to listen to Fushnikins. Now I'm going to get into, so it was always really dope for me that it was my dad. And I was like, do you understand, like, the monster you created? Like, I did 10 years at Sirius XM, Shade 45 because of you, like, and he was like, nah, I just thought it was a cool album
dope.
cover. Yeah, that was it.
That's what's up.
So,
That's incredible.
Speaking of, you were at Sirius, so man, you also played a
I
part
was.
in the Swerve interview that's coming today, right? With DJ.
Yeah, it should be on in a little while. Yeah, Who Kid, our Rolling Loud AEW Grand Slam weekend. Swerve was up there. Who Kid called me. He was like, "Yo, you're my wrestling aficionado," because he's been watching and texting me about it. He's a big Danhausen guy as well. Who Kid, he likes Danhausen. And
What?
And he's yeah.
I'm sorry.
You gotta understand something, Dan.
That is a scoop. That is like not anything I would have expected here.
Hey, Danhausen is out here, bro. He's hip hop.
Well, you gotta understand, like, Who Kid is into pageantry and showmanship because look who he was the tour DJ for.
Right.
You want to talk about pomp and circumstance and just passion in the world of hip hop, who's a polarizing figure no matter what. Like, you could consider 50 Cent top tier WrestleMania John Cena at one point. You feel me?
Yeah.
So when he's texting me and watching it, Who Kid's like, yo, this Danhausen kid is nice. And he's like, I get it. He's like, I get it. He goes, then I look on his Twitter and he's always selling something. He's always hustling something. He's like, he's incredible. And I was like, yeah, this is AEW, dude. You got to watch it. He liked them all, man. Hook and the Ass Boys. Like, he was all in on everything. He's like, yo, this hits, man. This is so for him. It was natural. So, and I love Swerve. Will, as you know, that's just my guy. It's my brother. I love him to death. And I'm glad that I was up there for, again, seeing one of his many first, his accomplishments that he's doing. So to see him out there doing it, and it was cool. So we got to just like tell some of his old, deathmatch, barbed wire, CZW stories when he was up there. We talked about hip hop. He rapped, he freestyled a little bit, So he was up there. He was up there doing. He was up there doing that. And I was just running around the city with the one half of the AEW Tag Team Championships around my waist, just running around Midtown Manhattan. We walked into Saks Fifth Avenue, and I just have this hunk of gold on my waist, and nobody batted an eyelash. Like, nobody. It was like the most normal thing in the world. It was just like incredible. So if you do have Sirius XM, Shade 45, Rolling Loud, AEW Grand Slam weekend, Who Kid, Swerve Strickland, big shout outs to AB. We up there. So
wow, that's amazing.
The most amazing part of that story is the fact that you were able to just walk around with that championship. Because let me tell you, when I was in New York in 2019, I was doing some belt trading at the time, and I had to. So this spinner belt right here over my shoulder is actually somewhat of a rare version of it, and so the guy who had it didn't realize that it was, and so he was just looking to trade with another belt, and so I had traded my WCW Big Gold because those are a dime a dozen, right? So I traded it to that guy. Didn't realize he gave up a rare version of the spinner belt to me. I'm like, oh, this is a first print. The first time I looked at it, I'm like, this is the first issue of it because they made some changes to it around like 2006, and so I had the spinner belt, right? And so when I was in New York, I'm like, damn, now I got to replace my World Heavyweight Championship. So I was at WrestleCon, and FanDuel Belts is just selling them. So I buy one, right? I buy one at WrestleCon. But of course, I'm still walking around Times Square. I've got this belt that I've got to do something with. And so I just like strap it around my waist in the meantime. And everybody I was with could attest to this. We walk into, I forget what restaurant it was. But we walk to a restaurant, and sure enough, somebody walks up and they're like, "Can I get a picture with you?" And I'm like, "I'm not a wrestler." And they're just like snapping pictures, and they're like, "I got a picture with that wrestler over there." And I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, man.
The world's
Yeah.
heavyweight champ.
And they're like, "That's the champ over there." I'm like, "Okay."
And the FanDuel belt is a better version of the WWE Big Gold belt because that's just some press metal. That FanDuel one is really detailed.
It
Like,
is.
It's incredible. So like I can understand why they thought you were probably a professional, but you're also a tall brother too. So
You're
it's
also
like
tall. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
but
I don't know, but
nobody
it was-
batted an eyelash that I'm just walking around with this belt, right? And I'm literally just like,
And that's the
"Yeah,
real
man."
belt.
That thing is heavy. It was like, and then we went to the Feast of San Gennaro. We were in like Little Italy, and we're walking around the feast, and nobody's like they're looking down at my waist, and then they're just looking up, and like a couple of dudes went like this to me. And I was like,
Yep.
Nah, man.
That's
I've seen you do
hilarious.
crazier things, and nobody's batted an eye. So this does not surprise me at all.
Mhm. Yep.
Hey,
Just
before we get
regular
into-
old day for Emilio.
Before we get in anymore, I want to remind everybody, leave us a thumbs up right here on this video. You're sitting there, just leave that thumbs up. Also, don't forget, we read your super chats, we read your humper chats. Your super chats, leave those at youtube.com/fightful. Humper chats, humperchats.com. Cool thing about humper chats is you can leave those at any point. As I mentioned on Day After Dynamite, make sure to specify what show those are for, just because if you're leaving them like in off hours, because sometimes I'll look at them and I'm like, this is kind of generic, but this could really go to any show. And then it turns out that was already read on one of the post shows. So if you're leaving it in off hours, just, give us a for Grapsody, for Dad. Usually we can tell if it's like I can tell when it's
We know
usually
which
for
ones are for
Grapsody.
Grapsody.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just want to make sure that if it's for us, we get it read. Like, we know when we see one from, let's go with Anwar. He says, "Good morning, peace and love to everyone in the Grapsody universe. Media Man, what was your favorite Golden State Warriors championship parade to attend or watch from home?" And follows up with, "Who are your favorite wrestling aces of all time?"
I was at the one in, was it, years are crazy because I smoke a lot of pot. 17 maybe. I can't honestly remember. There's been a lot, honestly, but I was at one a couple years ago. The streets are blocked off. It's Oakland, California, with the Warriors. Like a regular Sunday or Saturday in Oakland is nuts. Imagine there being a Warriors parade. There's all the superstars, E40s driving around, two shorts out here. It was Oakland excellence, amazing, and I can't wait to do it again this year when the Warriors do it again.
all right, simmer down. Simmer down.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Simmer down.
And
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as years are concerned, it wasn't 16, but
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about 2016.
Yeah. I think it might have been. What was the KD year?
That was 17.
The first KD year?
Yeah, it was 17. Yeah,
17, yeah.
that's when it was. It was 17. So yeah, and as far as aces, does Bret Hart count as an ace? Because that's mine.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he? But what's your definition of ace, though? Because
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
like, let's be real. These questions all subjective. So before you get on your
Definitely.
platforms on Jeff Bezos's internet and start tweeting on your thumbs and being like, Righteous Reg is wrong, bro,
Yeah.
and the polarizing Twitter over there of Phil W. Lindsay. Every 5 minutes somebody's up in that kid's mentions being like, your mother wears combat boots, Phil. It's always like an issue. Or something. Like,
It's always something.
I'm gonna go with Io Shirai because I think that she was a huge part of making Stardom what it is.
Yeah.
And I feel like she is probably like that run she went on where she was holding like 4 or 5 belts at the same time was crazy. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Io Shirai.
Yeah.
Oh, the wrestling aces. That's tough, right? Because, like, I don't know. I've always been one to gravitate more toward the person who's, like, not the ace at the time. Where, like, the top guy is John Cena, right? And so for me, then I turn around and I'm like, well, my favorite over here is Daniel Bryan.
Wait a minute. Whoa. You started our show with
of
a John
course,
Cena towel.
because I found it in a closet.
He's showing it again. He just keeps putting Cena over on this show. It's crazy here.
How many people really have a collection of John Cena towels? Will Washington does, ladies and gentlemen, in every color.
It's
Never
one.
forget.
I got one at a show that Cena was at, and I'm like, hey, I've never actually
and he
got
uses
the
it
Cena
to
towel.
shine. He uses it to shine his one of one spinner Cena belt, and he's
That's
just
it.
like, see, he has the armbands on. All this
Oh,
shit. Yes,
There's a unique thing about that John Cena belt, by the way. So the nameplate on it is actually The Rock, and
Why?
things are getting
because it's
interesting.
the actual nameplate that The Rock used, because that was the final nameplate. When I saw I could buy it, I actually bought The Rock's nameplate. It's actually a legitimate nameplate. He was the last
The
one to hold
Rock's
that belt.
plate.
So,
Yeah, I get it. Okay, it's about The Rock.
so
Who
but
I'm
The
still
Rock is
trying to get
actually
this
the
interview.
nameplate
Can
on
you
that one.
connect? Okay, Emilio's here. Can you connect me to Dwayne Johnson? I know you're pretty connected. My number one interview of all time is Dwayne Johnson, because it's The Rock. Connect
You're
me,
in-
Emilio.
You're
Hook me up.
actually your number one interview should be Brian Gewirtz instead, because
mean,
he kind of
that's a
helped
fact.
create. He kind of
Yeah.
helped create Uncle DJ.
You're right.
But Brian Gewirtz is in the. He's in the phone, so I got you. What you need, Mom?
This guy.
I'm saying, bro, let's go.
I'll say my ace. Oh, okay. There's my answer, just because he's my favorite wrestler growing up, and technically in WCW he was Sting. That's my guy.
That works.
Let's see. We got another one from Jennifer. Jennifer always with the donation. She says, "Love and
you,
light,
Jennifer.
gents. It has been a weird week. Please take care of your mental health and check in on your loved ones. So happy you are all with us." Thank you, Jennifer. I always appreciate that.
Thank you so
And,
much, Jennifer. And that's true. Everybody check on your mental health, disconnect, all the things you need to get your shit together.
And you know what? If you do disconnect, don't ever feel like you have to reconnect. Because my wife, for a long time, just recently decided that she was just kind of done with social media. She was like, you know what? It's not good for my mental health. I'm going to just drop off of social media for a little while. And then she reopened all her apps on Monday and almost immediately was like, I don't want to be here still. And I was like, don't feel like you have to return to social media. Don't feel like you have to be a part of any of this. Sometimes it doesn't have to be a break. Sometimes it can be just a permanent cut if that's what's the best thing for your mental health. Do it.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing is unplugging from this matrix, this weird, ancillary world of 250 characters and keeping up with the Joneses and reels on Instagram. It's a matter of unplugging from that and pulling from the divine within you to feel, hey, I don't like this because it makes me feel like this. But most ain't thinking that deep. You feel me? Like it's real vapid into, I got to get this point off. I gotta show off this thing. I have to be part of this entire collective because it's an attention that one needs because maybe they don't get it from or search for validation anywhere else. So you have to unplug from that and really figure out what's your vibration with you. And if it doesn't serve you, don't do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I've made it a point sometimes to not really go on social media and tweet at peak times, as I like to call them, when it's like during a major wrestling show or a major sporting event or some sort of news, because everybody wants to react rather than respond in those instantaneous moments. So that's when I remove myself from the situation, because I am not getting into it with an egg as an avatar trying to tell me I don't know anything about professional wrestling and or life. So that's when I'm like, okay, I'm going to go watch Roadhouse starring Patrick Swayze, and I'm taking a pause, man. Like, I'm good. I'll come back in a couple of hours when it's all died down, and then I can get off some really funny Twitter things. Like
Straight
my
up.
Dexter Loomis,
Yeah.
like my Dexter Loomis tweet that Phil called me and was like, "You chose violence today, buddy."
Yo, the amount of times that this guy has seen Roadhouse, there would be like random stuff going on. Like I'm watching wrestling and I look at his feed and he's talking about Roadhouse. I'm like, yo,
Greatest movie in the It's the greatest movie in the world. It's on Netflix right now too, y'all. So watch that.
Is
Hey,
that
Emilio,
your
I
go-
want to. No,
Is
go
that your
ahead.
go-to? Is that the one, the comfort movie?
There's like 3. So it's like anytime Rocky's on, I'm watching it. Like I was up until 7:00 this morning watching Rocky 4 because I had to see the ending. Like I did not know who wins at the end. You know what I mean? So it's the earliest I've been up to in a very long time. But no, so yeah, but Roadhouse is one of them. I think the Masters of the Universe movie from the 80s with Dolph
Yes,
Lundgren.
that's mine too. I can recite that movie
is-
word for word for word. I love that
word
movie.
for word. You know, I think the opening scene is probably the most badass scene as Skeletor is walking into.
Oh, no.
He literally just took over Castle Grayskull, right? And the music is playing, and he's cutting his promo, and all you see is just feet.
Hold on.
And
That is a straight up promo. He says, hold on, word for word, because she says, "We have sealed the gates of the city, the castle is secure. We're closing in on Thenurian as we speak." And then she's like,
report Evelyn. And
yeah,
then she's like,
he goes, report Evelyn, speak.
And,
yeah,
and
no,
she
but,
goes, after all this time, Grayskull is ours. Wait. And then you hear the music tapers off that didn't, and then he goes, "No!" and he screams, and then you see him have his like hand
on the staff.
he bangs his scepter into the floor, and then you just see him like click his hands like this, and the close up comes and he goes, "Mine." And Skeletor is the greatest heel of all time. I was like,
no, and
incredible.
honestly, when he says that, he turns around, he does the Evelyn, activate the holosphere. It turns around, people of Eternia, the war is over. Yeah, it's so great. That whole, honestly, I feel like for what was supposed to be like a really hokey movie, Frank Langella as Skeletor took that performance seriously.
He only took that role because his son was a He-Man fan at the time, but He-Man was also 6 or 7 years in already, where the franchise was on the decline during the movie. They thought that the sales were going to go up because of the movie, but the movie was completely different from the toy line. All you had was certain pieces. Like they didn't have the CGI to do Battle Cat, and they didn't have the CGI to do Orko. So that's why you had Billy Barty as Gwildor. That's why. And Phil and Reg are just like, what the fuck is this right now?
I have seen that movie so many times. That movie is like, so I used to rent it from Blockbuster on the regular, and then it used to come on TBS in the afternoons, and so I would record it. And so I had like this recording of it on TBS that I used to watch that recording so much that I didn't just know the movie. I knew all the commercials in it because I was like 3 or 4 years old. Watching this TV edit of it.
Right, my grandmother used to bootleg us stuff with a double VCR, so it was like I had that, so I would always watch that. But then, thank God it lives on like cable like HBO and Showtime. So like, it's on now. Like you can go and you can click and you can watch and like, yeah, man, I'll run it back. So there's only several movies that I'll run back ever. I think I've watched Roadhouse so many times that, I could literally do a thesis on Patrick Swayze and 80s toxic masculinity and teased hair. He-Man's another one. All the Rockies I'm good with. You give me like the first 4 Jean-Claude Van Damme movies I can do. Lethal Weapon 1, I'm all in on. What else? I mean, anything with explosions and gratuitous violence and some nudity. I think that was it as a kid, So I was doing all that. Oh, and then if you want something wholesome, I'll always run back. It's a Wonderful Life, because
that's not where I was expecting you to go for wholesome.
No, I know. It's wholesome, but it's scary at the same time too, because half the middle of that. Dude, watch. It's a Wonderful Life.
I've never seen this movie, by the way.
Oh,
Phil,
okay.
do you do anything outside of just living on the computer with professional wrestling? Like,
No.
do you
No,
watch?
I
do you
just
watch?
don't. That's not
Do you watch
that's not on
TV?
my top of my list. I've never
All
seen
right,
it. Never seen Roadhouse.
Here's what we're gonna. I'm so angry at this right now.
We've had this conversation before. I've never seen.
I
Roadhouse.
know. We have to change this. So when you come to New York, we're gonna get pizza. We're gonna come back to the crib, and we're gonna watch these 2 movies and you're going to fall in love with them. And then you're going to be a Swayze disciple as well. And you're going to become quite crazy for Swayze.
Crazy for Swayze.
Hey, we got a couple more super chats. We got I Am La Lucha says, yo, that Cena towel had me like, no.
Yeah, same here.
Same
here, La Lucha.
There you go. There's a better towel for you.
Oh, let's go, baby.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll see. Never give up does not apply to the Bulls, obviously. But
nah, man, don't do our guys like that.
Shots fired.
I Am La Lucha says, did y'all see LL talking about paying homage and respect to the pioneers? Spitting facts.
Oh, yeah.
Hip hop is American culture, and folks need to acknowowledge that. Again,
Academics got in here. He Academics became like a wrestling troll and became the guy. That's how it is. When you laugh, when you say, "Look at this guy," when you dunk, eventually those guys become the guys if they get so many tweets and so many dunk. If you get dunked on so many times, people know who you are, and you somehow get a name in this business, and it's great.
Right, but my thing is this, and this is what I found rather like anger ensuing was, dude, how do you like? The thing that you profit off of, and you make a lot of money off of this to the point where like you don't got to do anything else for the rest of your life. I think you're that financially solvent because you're about your money and rightfully so, as you should be. But my thing is this, like, you don't understand or pave the way that these individuals that weren't making money because it wasn't a genre beforehand,
right?
Where in most you had, if you went down into the Lower East Side, you had hip hop shows going on at the same time as punk rock shows, and the crowd didn't know what to make of them. And you're doing everything for free, and you're trying to do this where labels weren't investing in hip hop because they did not understand if black men could actually be a viable source of income and revenue for a label. So outside of R&B, jazz, soul, or whatever, they didn't know what this was. So for you to sit there and talk about the thing that you profit off of in a negative way and say that they're well, what makes them dusty? It's the fact that they probably did get the shaft where maybe, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5. All right, if they're not multi-millionaires, but look at where it came from too, and look at the value of $1 and how inflation has created over the years. So you can have your little babies and you can have your favies, and they could be all iced out and they could be dripped out because of their billions of spins. But you have to give props to guys like the UMCs and the Furious Fives, and you know what I mean. You got to give credit to Def Jam for being the first hip hop label and signing the artist. And so if that's considered dusty, fuck off, because if you don't have the pioneers to pave the way to really be in the trenches doing it for you to make money as I won't even say a journalist or a DJ, I'll just say as a opinionist, because that's just what he is. He's an opinionist. So for you to sit there like, how are you going to say that? Yeah, okay, let's just say the middle to like late 90s, they really started to make more money. Okay, cool. But that was because like people started to put their dollar into hip hop. But you're going to discredit dudes that paved the way to start so you can make money? Right. Are you serious? So that's why a guy like LL, when he came on and he spoke so passionately about what he did, was because he was there. He's seen it. Yeah. So how are you going to discredit this thing like that you're in? Like, you make your money off of this. So why don't you sit down and get off your high horse instead of always bigging up the ones that have like the jewels and the streams and the clout, and actually interview these guys if you're a journalist, right? And talk about the actual thing. Like Cypher Sounds did a great episode of Juan Ep with Pete Nice from Third Base. And Pete really talks about the rise of KMD and MF Doom. And you want literally a cool little background as to the come up and the struggle. Man, listen to Cypher talk to Pete Nice, because you will definitely hear like the genesis of Doom, the struggle of Doom, the passing of his brother, the alcoholism, and then to get to where he was at. So it's like, but you gotta, like, if you struggle in this art, like, that's the I guess I'm romanticizing a little bit, but like that's I guess the beauty of it, because then it works. But it's also in the same token, you could have people say, "Oh man, once they got to the WWE or AEW, like everything changed. Now they make their money." Meanwhile, like people would say like, "Oh, I can't believe Samoa Joe left Impact to go to WWE," or "I can't believe Tyler Black left ROH to go to WWE." So to me, it's like, wow, like get off of your high horse, man, and just fall back. And like, who are you to do that?
Right.
That's annoying, because it's like, dude, some of these older dudes, like, they can't afford healthcare right now, but you mean to tell me you're not going to give Cool Herc his flowers because he might dress dusty, but that's the godfather of the DJ? Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think anybody can really say it better than LL. I won't try to match his passion or match his points. But I do think it's really corny to, attribute value to what people do off of money, because it's just it's just whack. And I mean, to be honest, a lot of guys that look flashy today, that are looking icy, they have no money. Like, they have no real money.
Exactly.
They spent all they have on that, and that money's not going to be here 10 years. That influence is not going to be there 10 years later. So,
well, that's the thing. Who are you going to listen to, right? Like, I'm gonna be honest. I am like 5 years removed from anything major urban radio. I'm 5 years removed, right? I can't tell. Like, it all sounds the same. If we were to play a game right now, if we were to play a game, is it Future? Is it the Baby? Is it oh God, who
Baby?
Like is it all of them? Like, all of the littles that mumble and use the auto tune still to this day, like, and all the same rhyme, like, like simile, metaphor, like even just cadence. I would probably tell you I don't know who this person is. Like,
see, I have an 11-year-old daughter, so I that keeps me definitely knowing still. And fully aware, like, when my daughter's like, "Hey, it's a new Roddy Ricch song," and I'm like,
that's the one. Like, apparently that's the heir apparent. That's like literally the new Jesus Christ of auto-tune, and like
Rod Wave too.
Rod Wave's another one. Like, I've heard of Rod Wave. I've never listened to a Rod.
I don't know one Rod Wave song. If somebody said, say a Rod Wave song right now or die, I'd be dead. I don't know.
You'd be dead. I would be like, "Hey, but before you shoot me, did you listen to the new Rock Moxley Alchemist record?"
And he's like, "Nope, you're dead."
That's fire.
Or the Derringer Mayhem Loren.
That Rock Marcy is crazy. I've been living in that for a long.
Rock Marcy album is really good. I heard he was at Grand Slam, by the way.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was.
Rock Marcy was in the building. See, man.
Yeah.
We gotta
fucking back, bitch.
Let's read a couple more because I want to talk about Grand Slam. So just real quick, let's see. We got Chris bringing back up Dub C from earlier. Said, "Put some respect on Dub C's name. Illest member of the West Side Connection gang."
Yay! Yay!
Yeah, no, straight up. I like Dub C. It was not disrespect to Dub C. Dub C's amazing. West Side Connection. California. I've never disrespect anybody from California.
Yo, was Dub C the one doing the Crip Walk in Corn's Got the Life when they do the Get You Pretty on it? It's like,
that was definitely Dub C.
So I would say of the three, see, I was bigger on Mac 10, right? Because I know this is probably a rare opinion. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I don't follow internet takes on Mac 10. But when I was 14, that was when Mac 10 signed with Cash Money for like that year. And it was the weirdest combination of...
It was weird.
It was the weirdest combination, right? Because like if you were reading the Source magazine or XXL and you saw the ad in it with featuring the whole Cash Money lineup, and for whatever reason you look at it and you're like, why is Mac 10 here? This doesn't make any sense. You're looking at BG, you're looking at Big Timers, you're looking at Lil Wayne and Mac 10. Like, it didn't fit. But I'm like, I think I can vibe with this. And then the album came out, Banger Ball. That's still my favorite Mac 10 album, honestly. I love that album. I thought Manny Fresh's production with Mac 10 is still something that was two sounds I didn't know I ever wanted together, but it sounded really good. And like Connected for Life, right? The What Is It Like? Tossing Them Hoes. Like that song. There was West Side Connection, but it was Manny Fresh producing it. So it was just a very different track and a different sound for West Side Connection to have Manny Fresh on the beats. Like, nah, that's
you went from a way different time frame than I was going. I was thinking of Mac 10 as a lick, West Side as a click. Can't get enough of that gangster shit. My favorite Mac 10 thing is in Beef 1, where they're talking about the beef between Ice Cube and Common, and Mac 10 is like, that Common shit was whack. He was like, we
already knew where you were going.
Like, we were dope. We was in the we was punching meat and shit in the thing. I was like, yo, Mac 10 was going ham. Shout out to Mac 10. Shout out to West Side Connection. Shout out to hip hop. This is a episode of hip hop.
Yeah, this is what I like. This is what I like most about like the hip hop discourse that you can have, is because there is a whole bunch of regionalism, and
exactly.
And you know, Reg is I don't know if you know this, everybody watching on YouTube right now, but Reg is from the West Coast. He's from the Bay Area. Phil's from Chicago. I don't know if anybody knows.
I don't know. I don't think anybody knows.
I don't know if anybody knew where I was from.
So, you know, I like to hear like the little stories, because growing up, like, you know, I'll know of like the names, right? But you'll know like the real subtle nuance of it. You know, like I'll walk around yelling, bitch, like, you know, on my Too Short shit, because that's what you listen to. But to hear little things like that, like, oh, who he was beefing with this one because of this record and this and that, like, to me, that's the juicy stuff. Like that's the beauty of hip hop, man. Because
I've seen so many hip hop documentaries, I can't even like it's like I've seen them and I'm like, I know what they're gonna say already. Like that's how many I've seen. But as soon as they put out a new one, I'm watching the fuck out of it. I love it so much, man. It's beautiful.
I'd say, being from Denver, we didn't have a hip hop scene, so it's one of those like we just had to kind of pick. And so, you know, being closer to the West Coast, and plus I'm originally from California, so I originally picked pretty much just on West Coast hip hop, right? Like in high school, I was obsessed with Bay Area music. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but for those of you who have been listening to me long enough, and I see a couple in the chat, who know that when like Mac Dre meant a lot to me, right? I was distraught when Mac Dre passed, and to the point of where I remember on the 1 year anniversary I did on RBR, I just played Mac Dre tracks on the live feed.
That's hard. That's hard.
No, because like I was just into that whole scene, right? I had Messy Marv, like I still listen to Messy Marv every once in a while, even though my daughter will hear it and go, what is this, Dad? And I'm like, because he got that track B, right? Where like every single line starts with the letter B. And because he's a blood, you know that. But my daughter's listening to it and she's like, I don't get it. And I'm like, you won't, it's
please
one of those
never
you had to
get
be
it.
there.
I hope you never get it.
Yeah, please never get it. Definitely don't bring somebody home that gets it. Definitely don't.
Yeah, but YG, YG did it, you know, a decade later though too, with changing all the C's to B's, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the new generation's on that shit too. Definitely.
Yeah, I know. So
my favorite Bay Area would be the People Under the Stairs though. So I was more of a bit of a underground backpack.
Yeah, I was on that side too, like
for a hot minute,
Souls of Mischief and all that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
right. Like that's I was like, oh, I'm not listening to nothing if it's on terrestrial radio. It needs to be on a 10-watt radio station.
And you ended up working at radio. Like how did that work?
God did. That's how Phil.
Come on, man. Khaled, man. Full circle.
You know what I'm saying?
RH says WWE QR codes is the new Little Orphan Annie decoder pin. Instead of a massive secret message, it was just a crummy commercial.
To also get a T-shirt.
Get Jay and Oscar. We're gonna talk about that in a minute because I love that opening segment. Yeah, there's a lot. And let's see. Bugaboo Jones became a new member, says FTR is an incredible team, but they don't get to have all the tag belts. There's too many great teams waiting for some shine. Hey, look, I was saying that, right? I was saying back in the summertime, as we were starting to see the rise of FTR, not the rise of FTR, the rise of the Acclaimed, I was saying that, look, FTR's got 3 sets of titles. There are things you can do with FTR, but you have an opportunity to elevate other teams right now, and I appreciate that. At the end of the day, other teams did get elevated, while FTR still gets to maintain what they've got.
But they have to, but they got to defend them now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They haven't defended the belts in how long has it been?
Yeah.
Now, do you go to the Dome? Are you going to the Dome,
right,
and defending the IWGP Tag Team Championship? Because eventually, like, it's either you got to do it or give them up. They're cool to have as a talisman to hold on to. You know, if we could talk about tag teams right now, or tag team championships, let's do that. Let's remove tag teams for a minute. If you would want to see FTR carry them, what other championships out there do you feel that are major? So they don't have the AEW one, so that's one, right? I would say GCW tag team titles hold some weight on the indies, and maybe Impact. Is that like, because remove WWE from the equation? Is it those three? Would you say like are the ones that people want to see them hold? I don't know. Like I don't know any other indie promotion out there right now that does have the weight of GCW. I think the Impact one would just be a funny joke.
I would say NWA just because they feel like
just
an
for their
NWA
history.
team. So,
yeah. That would be one.
And it's NWA,
that.
so okay.
I mean, you really just want it for the history, yeah.
Yeah.
And
so that's the thing, and you have to look at it like I always look at when the teams are hot. It's like a revolving door, right? Like you get your time, you're cemented, you're a top guy, cool. Now you can come out the moment like those synth chords hit on your theme song, the crowd's gonna go bananas, right? But now you got to see your other teams have to build up too, because you have to elevate that division. So what like Swerve and Keith Lee did with the help building the Acclaim was tremendous. Having Billy Gunn tremendous. There was a nice like shift in how it worked. So now you have people scissoring and going crazy the moment that they come out.
Scissoring the entire building, bro.
He was going crazy about that. And so to see what they're doing now, it's like, okay, now you have a team that can take on FTR. You have a team that could take on the Bucks. You have a team that could take on whoever to award Joe, for instance, if they wanted to go at it, because you have a really good tag team division with a lot of viable players in it, but it doesn't have to be the same 5 or 3 teams in that company, for instance. Now you can have a nice mix and a real diverse group of cats holding this championship. Like, to me, I was always waiting for Pride and Powerful to have that tag team run. And it never happened. That's always going to be the greatest what if for me in AEW. But
do we have a status on Santana, by the way?
I mean, he got really hurt in that in Blood and Guts. So, yeah.
Hey, Emilio, before we get into Grand Slam, I actually had a question, or I wanted to get your thoughts. During the MJF interview with Ariel Helwani, a lot of people are focusing on, a bunch of things that he said, but the focus for me was that he got into how important MLW was to his come up and a lot of people's come up. I thought it was super interesting that, like, in that interview, that MLW was the company that got put over. And we know that you've produced some talent in MLW. Was that surprising, one? And also, how important is it to develop? How important is promos and development to a wrestler beyond just being a great wrestler?
Okay, so I'll say this. I produced for about 10 months in MLW, and I had a nice crop of cats that I worked with and developed because I seen something in them. EJ and Duca, I think is a stud. Danny Limelight and Slice Boogie, 5150. He's great. Casey Navarro.
He's incredible.
I was working with Killer Cross as well. I worked with a lot, and I can, they allow their producers to produce and really, really get in there. And so I think a company like that who doesn't have they don't really have the means, which is a big, like, frustrating point, which is like one of the reasons why, like, I kind of walked away, was like, monetarily gain, because it takes you out of your, it takes you out of your like your rhythm and flow with your other jobs, and it's like then you have to focus on this for like the 2 days and their 15-hour days, and you want to just put it like that. But for a guy like him, you can see what they were doing with him. They were grooming him, and they were allowing him time to develop who this MJF character was going to be. And I think that's a real good sign of dudes like, Court and Jared and, Greeny, where they allow their guys to like really do it. And big shout outs to Biff Lawson too, because he's another producer there that doesn't get his flowers. Biff is incredible. It was me, Biff, and his camera guy Freddie. They used to call the 3-headed monster, because we would come in and we would literally sit down with these dudes and be like, all right, what do you want to do? And that was always my thing. I would always tell them, okay, who are you in regards to your character? Well, I'm this, that, and the third. I'm like, nah, man, you're just saying words. Like, I don't want to hear the words. Like, that like you want to know why Kurt Angle worked when he said the 3 eyes? Because he made you believe it. Like, you want to know why what was a thing? Because Austin made you believe it. So the stuff that you're telling me before we do this promo, it's just words, B. It's just hitting and it's just falling down. Right. So he would so I won't say who, but like they would say something, and I would be like, all right, cool. This is good. Could you allow me? And then I would act it out for them, like with them, and I would say like what they would say, but then I would add like a different type of body language or a movement. And then you would see like the eureka moment, like they would get it, because I'm like, remember guys, this is performative now. Anybody can go out and do the moves, Jack. Like but what stands out about you is this. So you have this like 30-second to 60-second window to really shine on your backstage promo, because MLW very rarely, the only ones that really cut the in-ring promos is a cat like Richard Holiday, who I'm gonna be real with you, needs to leave MLW and go somewhere else, because that dude's a star. So it's like, whoa, I cut the in-ring, but all right, let's cut these promos back here. You know what I mean? Like, but that place is a great place as a jumping point to go somewhere else. I think Court Bauer is an incredible eye for talent. I think he knows, like, okay, I'm going to help groom this one. And then when they're ready to go, I can say they're a product of my hard work and my learning tree. So I think the promo is real important, but it's companies like that that allow you to be great. And MJF was a product of that. Not to say that he was a product of MLW, but I think Max is a product of understanding early on that you get off when you're on TV. So your little time on the box has to be so meaningful. So every word has to count. Right. Feel me? Yeah. And that's the thing that we always try to convey. I know that's what I would do and Biff would do. We would always say, yo, it's YouTube. There's a lot of people watching YouTube. Right. And MLW, each week Fusion would get 100,000, 200,000 views. So it's like, make it last for a minute. One of my favorite promos was Casey Navarro. He was doing his feud with Enzo Amore. And we were in South Carolina, and he tells me, what do you would always say big bro. So anytime like when we would have early call time. So he would text me real early in the morning. He's like, all right, big bro, let's go. I'm like, all right. So I would be like, all right, once I get there, we'll talk. And he was like, what do you want me to do? I go, no. It's not what I want you to do. What do you want to do? And he's like, well, I want to do a eulogy because we're going into this street fight and it's a different me. I'm not really braggadocious with this one. I want to fight because there was this whole thing where Enzo like attacked him and he was supposed to be Casey's mentor and like whatever. So it was like really interesting storytelling the whole time. And the kid's cutting great promos. Enzo is just a great promo. And I tell him, okay, let's do this. I go, have you ever seen Batman Returns? And he goes, yeah. I go, so I pull up a scene that I wanted him to emulate. It's the scene where Michael Keaton in the beginning is contemplating and he's sitting in the dark. And then the bat signal hits and he raises up. Right. And it's that big moment with the Danny Elfman music. And it's like, boom. And then he comes up and he has like this, all right, I got to go do what I have to do now. So we found this like real dark and dingy corner in like this arena, and I tell him, here's what I want you to do, because all your promos leading up to this, you've been mocking Enzo, you've been doing the how you doing. I go, and you've been real loud and braggadocious, and you know, I was like, slow it down this one. Don't yell, don't scream. I go, and what I want you to do first before you even speak, and I go, give it 10 Mississippis in your head. Now that's a long time not to say anything. I go, but I guarantee you, I go, less is more with this one. Sometimes slow is fast, kid. Trust me on this one. And I say, look off in the distance, take your glasses off, keep them in your hand, and then say what you want to say. Hit your 3 beats. I go, in and out, 45 seconds. And then at the end, instead of yelling how you doing, just say it and put your glasses back on and look off again, and then shrug the camera away with your hand. Best promo I think the kid ever did, and I think it's the best promo we ever had on MLW.
So wait, what you're telling me is you gave him the R. Kelly B2K, man.
Essentially,
you should go in a ring, spin around, take your glasses off. I don't know if you guys saw the same story off Drink Champs. Fucking hilarious.
Oh my!
No, but it's things like that where I like having my guys or my girls tell the story in a different way, because anybody can go on and yell and cut a promo and battle, right? But that's not what it's about. What it's about is really like saying this is what it is. And I think MJF paints that picture. Like he comes in, he'll lay it all out, right? And then he'll get intense, and then he drops his voice. He becomes serious. Then he'll pick it back up again the next beat where he'll be an asshole. And then like he'll say something like real slanderous. And then again, more intensity. And then he drops down again. And then his final beat is when he's out. And that's the most like poignant thing. And he says, and he hits it. Boom, boom, boom. If you look, there's always like it's a 3-arc narrative when you want to tell your stories when cutting a promo. You always hit your promo marks in 3 beats. Always. And then you're out. And he always hits them. Always hits them.
Oh, there's some bars.
Yeah, bars. Hey, 2 more things I want to read. One, and the third one is gonna. All right, so 3 things I'm gonna read from 2 people. Third one is gonna lead us into a discussion. So, first one is from our friend Cher. She says, on the topic of belts going back, she says, "Now you both have to defend the belts." Look, I got a lot of belts I gotta defend here. All
Defend all of them.
Yeah, you definitely gotta defend having that spinner belt in your house, bro.
Why? Why? Why the spinner belt was the spinner belt was the longest. Yeah, but the spinner belt was the longest reigning belt. It took over the wing.
8 years. Yeah, it got 8 years, 13 champions. Like it's.
Well, granted, they were the same guy winning the belt over and over again.
Yeah.
But
the issue is like the spinning thing was dead when he started it, and then 8 years after something is dead is a long time to have.
Yeah, I hated it. A part of my soul dies that Punk's most well-known WWE title reign is that belt.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, I didn't get that belt till 2019, and really it was because a guy who was like not like an avid belt collector had it and didn't even realize which version of it he had, and so that was why I had to make sure I grabbed that one. I'm
not a belt collector. I have one. No, I have 2. I have 2 belts, and I don't really like parade them around. I've never been one of those guys I got to bring my belt to a wrestling show.
By the way, do not bring your belt to a show and keep putting it up in front of the hard cam the entire show. Jesus Christ, that was annoying.
Yeah. I'm at the moment I own 7 belts, and my wife was just telling me, so you can see the shelf holds 4, right? So she was like, I got to get you another shelf, and I'm like, yeah, but then you got to get me another belt because otherwise I'm gonna have one with 4 and one with 3. What am I gonna do with that?
So what don't you have then out of the 7?
So the thing is, I think the next one I want is not the current version, but the last IWGP heavyweight. I feel like that's the one I want in the collection.
Not the one that looks like a big butterfly, right?
The Diva. Divas
I said
2.0.
butterfly. I'm sorry.
Divas
Yeah.
2.0?
We started trouble this week with the butterfly belt.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We already
I didn't mean
started
to say
trouble
that
with
out
the
loud.
butterfly belt. Yeah, no, that's the last one I feel I want in my collection, and then I think I've got everything I've wanted over the years. Because even still, there's one right behind me where I've got the current WWE. There's really no reason to own any others because I've seen people who have like that one and then like the Universal, and I'm thinking they're kind of all the same. So at that point, what's
You know, once you play with the actual real belts, you can't. You can't. It's like it's going backwards. You can't. It's you know what I
You gotta
mean?
learn
Like
the will one.
yeah.
you kind of
so-
like, you know. Like, I'm
Well,
like,
so
oh,
the funny
no.
thing is, you know, I definitely became a snob for customs because after a while, you know, so the story of my belts, guys. I told the story of this one. Story of my Attitude Era belt is that's my original. That's the first belt I ever bought. I was 14 years old. I was mowing lawns, and that's a WWF. That's not a WWE Attitude Era belt.
I was
So-
gonna ask, does it
Yeah.
have the what type
It's got the scratch
insignia?
logo. Yeah.
Okay,
so-
because one of my good friends, Joe, he has that that second inversion of the Winged Eagle, but with the blue WWF insignia.
I've wanted that one too. Yeah. So I got this one. That was one of those. If you saw those old Figures Toy Company advertisements in WWF magazine back in the day, and they have all the belts in the catalog, and then so I like mowed lawns for a summer to get that one, and so that's my original. That's the first belt I ever got. I've held on to that one. It's actually signed by Mick Foley, and that's like my classic. This one here is a custom I had made by a belt maker, and I'm not going to say who made that one because they get into trouble for it. But I will say this, that there's a guy who makes all the AEW belts, Ron Edwardson. He is a phenomenal belt maker. He'll tell you, he got started making boots. That was his whole thing, was he made bootleg belts, and then Cody found him and was like, dude, these are like as good as the legitimate belts. And AEW hired him to produce all of their championship belts. He's made the tag team, he made the TBS, TNT, every belt AEW has. He didn't make the original version of the current women's belt, but he made the one that Tony Storm has now. Great belt maker. He made the tag team belts, the one that you got to hold. The ones you've had the real deal. It's like not the same. So I now go to custom belt makers to get belts I want made, because like those ones that they make at WWE Shop, they're just, I don't know, it's factory made. It's all, you can tell there's not a whole lot of handcrafting to them.
When you see the actual WWE television belts, like when you're there, like they keep them in like a storage locker case kind of thing, like a rollout case. But like when you see them in person, you get to hold them, and like they're really detailed, and photos, and sometimes on television, it does not do them justice. Like they are like the women's tag team championships. They're really nice in person, like really super clean, like really well detailed, great etching. Like the tooling, like on the leather, is even cool.
Yeah.
Like they're dope belts, man.
I mean, I will say though, you can tell when WWE's not using the legitimate belts, and they both times that they've had to do it were when there were overseas mishaps, because like the WWE Shop replicas, they pop on television. You could tell when it's just something from WWE Shop. And the two times it happened were the Saudi plane, when everything got when like half the roster got stuck, the championships got stuck with them. And so in 2019, when Brock came back as WWE champion, he didn't have the belt with him. And so they just had him come to the ring with they just pulled a belt from one of the stands, WWE Shop. And you could absolutely tell he didn't have the real belt on his shoulder. It didn't look like it. The way that the light was hitting it, the way you could tell that the diamonds just don't quite
shine.
Yeah, they don't quite shine the same way. You could tell Brock Lesnar has got a WWE Shop replica around his waist.
It's also like looking at somebody when you know they're wearing a pair of like reps from like a sneaker rep. It's like, come on, my guy. Really? This is what you're doing? Like that check's looking janky, brother. What are we doing over there?
And the other time was in 2010, where there was that some people might not be old enough to remember this, but there was a big volcano that kept that kept the WWE roster stuck overseas. And so for an episode of Raw, they brought in like the SmackDown roster, but the belts were all still with that overseas crew. And so Jack Swagger, who was World Heavyweight Champion at the time, has, and it's the worst when it comes to the big gold belt, because the big gold belts the WWE shop sells are like flat. They don't look like the real deal. So Jack Swagger is coming out with this belt around his waist that is very obviously just like one from WWE shop. And it was extremely clear that they didn't have the championships with them. But both times that they've had to use, and in AEW for like a month, Hangman was walking around with the one from Shop AEW. Anyway, though, the other thing Cher said was Emilio didn't watch cartoons. He was 3 watching Rocky. So
She gets me.
So I want to give a shout out to Daniel R. Daniel R sent in this Humper chat back on Thursday during Day After Dynamite. Sorry, Daniel, that I missed it because I was basically in a hurry getting out, because I don't know if you guys who saw that show, but it ran a little long. I have to pick up my son at 2:45, and so when it hit 2:45, I was like, all right, we're out. And so I didn't get to finish reading all of the Humper chats, but he reached out to Sean, and Sean let me know that I missed this one. This one happens to relate to Dynamite, which we're going to be talking about. And he says, I don't like that the first 3 matches all had interference. It just was really annoying, but very happy about the acclaim. So let's talk about the show, because you were there, Emilio.
Yes.
And I didn't get to go this year. I wanted to. I went last year.
Also did not get to go.
Yeah, and Philip Lindsay didn't get to
go.
go. Yeah, you were supposed to go, and then
Phil's a busy man.
We've been talking about it for months, and then you didn't get to go. But
Life.
I will still say, watching Grand Slam on television, it's still Arthur Ashe Stadium. I like being there last year. It's just it's a beautiful stadium to be in. It's I don't know. It just, the atmosphere feels different from all of the other shows I've attended. But even seeing it on TV, I still feel it's one of the best looking television broadcasts done currently.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what it is too? It's huge, and there's it's a lot of seats in there, but there's always a good seat in the house. That's the type of venue it is. And the fandemonium was real electric going into that thing. Like, that crowd was super lit the entire night, like they were on TBS, and you just knew like they were just on the edge of their seats waiting for, and I think like everybody wanted to see who was going to be either the next World Tag Team Champions, or would Swerve and Our Glory retain, and who was going to be AEW World Heavyweight Champions. So people were literally on the edge of their seats all night, like waiting for those things. And it starts off, and it's like the crowd is, first off too, I want to preface this, going to a wrestling event and watching it at home and scrolling on your phone, the energies are not there, because you get all
Totally
the
different.
you get the nitwits and like that army of unfuckable hate nerds on social media, as opposed to like going there and like hanging out with folks that actually want to pull up and hang out and do something, right? And it's the energies are two completely different things. Give me a phonetic energy crowd every day that wants to go to a show and cheer and spend their money and just have a good time and be so fixated on the thing to live in the moment. That's the type of wrestling show I want to go to, right? I've been to 1,000 WWE ones that have that pacing, and AEW shows, and Grand Slam always delivers. They always come out the bag. So it's like, man, you come out, Swerve and Keith with Fab, Who Kids with the Acclaimed.
Yeah.
I mean, so you fast forward the pomp and circumstances of the intro. There was one time where I got taken out of the match for a spot, and then you could tell like they fumbled a little bit. The pacing was a little off, and then they went right back into it, and they had the crowd again. So to me, that's great storytelling, because it's like, okay, you lose them for a second, and then you bring them right back, and then they're hot for the entire time up until the finish, and then they just go crazy during the finish, and then MJF comes out immediately following that. So like, sometimes I do disagree with AEW pacing, but for a show like that, the pacing was on point. It was just bing, bing, like, let's hit it all. Just go. We're not giving them a chance to breathe. Crushed it.
Honestly, I think the last 2 AEW shows, and the ratings reflect it, I think, have been really smartly paced. And because I thought last week's show, I gave them credit for the video packages they put in between the matches and just giving people a chance to kind of absorb what's going on. I thought they did a much better job with that. And the thing that the last 2 shows really show was there isn't a big drop off at all. I think there's from segment to segment, it's never more than less than 100,000 fans, but the show maintains, and that's what the last 2 episodes did. And I feel like that is a sign that they're getting a little bit smarter with the pacing of the shows these last few weeks. I feel like the early AEW shows were really paced that way, and then they just kind of got in that almost mid 2000s TNA mode of something would happen and then just immediately we're like, all right, now let's move on to the next thing. And because I used to hate that about old TNA, right? And when Wardlow won the TNT championship and he's on the ramp and we're not even getting a chance to soak it in because Excalibur's like, all right, now let's talk about the next thing that's about to happen. And I can't even imagine what the crew had to do to come out and now let's just sweep up all this confetti, because as soon as we come back, we're moving on to completely something else. We're not even talking about Wardlow anymore. And I thought that the pacing here was just, they've gotten a lot better the last couple of weeks with the pacing, kind of back to the old school AEW.
It's cool to have, back to back to back, but if you could just space it out just a bit, even if the announcers don't say anything, and you give that 3 seconds, 4 seconds, that 5-second little window, and just let the silence of the crowd as the music's playing, as the Acclaimed is celebrating, just let that be it. Just let that be it. Right. And then you can move into the next thing with the agenda and continue to tell the story. Just let it 3 beats. Boom, boom. And just keep moving.
I was really happy for the Acclaim, though. I'm really happy that they got that moment. I had tweeted right after it happened about how they're really AEW's first started from the bottom act to make it to the top. That they brought them in on Dark. They had nothing.
They weren't going to get signed originally. If you look at them, their rise has been what you want in terms of how to build, book, and program a performer. AEW, I don't think gets the credit that they deserve in building their mid-card guys. You've seen it with Wheeler Yuta. So Utes did it. You see it with Garcia right now. You're seeing it with Max. You saw it with Wardlow. You've seen it with Darby. You've seen it with Sammy and Britt, and now you're seeing it with the
Hobbs
Acclaim.
And Starks too. Yeah.
Hobbs and Starks. But I think the Acclaim probably has had the most fanfare and most organic rise because people just want to be involved, man. That's it.
Yeah.
They want to say the thing. They want to do the hand gesture. They want to react to the raps. They just want to be part of it. And I think that's why they rock with them, because it's fun. Right. And you have you have Billy Gunn wearing a Yellowstone trucker hat backwards, being like, hey, hip young fellows, it's Jack Dad here.
Definitely doing that.
And then you have Caster, who's the smart ass, and you have Bowens, who's a little bit more serious but can act funny as well. And it just well together. And the fact that you just want to put your fingers and somebody else's fingers and go like this, and everybody, there was tons of people, strangers walking around, just scissoring each other all night. Just going like this.
And that is a wild statement. If you had told me that a year ago, 2 years ago, I would go, what are you even talking about? But the fact that got as over as it did. And the funny thing is, Max Caster was legitimately asked to stop doing that originally because they were because it was lewd. It was because it was really just, Anthony Bowens would come out and he'd go, the Acclaimed have arrived, and Max Caster would just come up under him and scissor.
They would make an A, and nobody would know it was just it's a thing. But then once they started yelling "scissor me," and I think you have to also give credit and his props to Danhausen, because Danhausen gave they didn't need the rub, but Danhausen gave them a really cool rub. I think maybe accidentally, just because Danhausen's so good with the improv that it's just one of those quick things. So it was like scissor me, daddy ass, and it was just like it was over after that. And then it becomes like this. It becomes this thing.
I will say though that hearing Brian Alvarez talking about how the big payoff to this has to be the return of Bart Gunn as Uncle Ass. And
my god!
Yo, please no, no.
No, I want that. You have to have Uncle Ass in there. I think like
definitely.
That's the one important piece. That's the missing piece.
It's been my headcanon the entire time that those guys are brothers. Like no matter what, no matter where I've been, it still remains headcanon. Like even throughout the 2000s where Billy Gunn was so far removed from the Smoking Guns, but like Bart Gunn was still kind of on the roster. Like the fact that I still have 2 Guns on the roster, these two, it's still a thing, right?
Smoking Guns, baby.
Those old Smoking Gun pictures are hilarious when you look at them because, like, at that time, Billy Gunn looks a lot like Hangman. Like, if you put them side by side, they look very similar. It's weird, but no, man, very happy for the Acclaimed. Bowen deserved this. Bowen was one of those guys that couldn't get signed for a minute. He had that really bad injury at one point, and that guy can really work, man. Like, I don't know if people realize it. That guy's really good. And so I was really happy for him, man. First openly gay champion in the company as well. Big accomplishment.
I seen him wrestle as Anthony Vigilante in I forget what show he was. I think he was in like a scramble match. Necro Butcher was in it. The Revolting Blob was in it. And yeah, it was. I always knew like, oh, this kid he's got something, man. Like he's dope. Like he stood out. I was like, so congratulations to them, man. It was fun. It paid off. Like it was one of those itches. I wish that they went to Full Gear and won it because I think you could have told a really good story and you could have got them even hotter. Where
Really?
like
I don't feel there was a better atmosphere though.
No, I
like,
think in New York it was great, right? But I think like to prolong it just a little bit more, give us just that. Like, are they gonna do it? Is it gonna happen? Like, are we finally gonna get like? Are they gonna get over this hump? Like, I think at that pay-per-view. Listen, man, doing it on network television is sweet, but man, winning a championship on a pay-per-view, boy.
Yeah. I agree.
Man, like the cigarette afterwards.
I agree. I thought it was great because at All Out, I was sitting next to everybody and they was like, this is a mistake. They should have won tonight. I was like, don't worry, they're gonna run this back in New York. They're gonna win.
Yeah,
this isn't over. So yeah, it was nice to see the payoff.
Yeah, it was. Although I have to say, Philip Lindsay, talking about things that happened at Grand Slam, there's one thing that happened that you were really unhappy about.
Yo, are we gonna be honest about this Chris Jericho stuff or not? Because I like some of the JAS stuff, but he does not need that title win, man. Claudio deserved a better title reign, and I know I've seen people that are like, "Oh, well, he had a great title reign." Look, he had some good matches, but that's not a great title defense, great title run. He did not have a memorable run with that title, and I think.
It's time to get serious about this shit, you guys.
If you're going to tell me that the reason you took that title off of Gresham is to do this big run with Claudio and make him the TV deal guy, no, you essentially failed 2 guys here. I feel like you did Gresham dirty because you did not give him a chance on television. And I feel like you didn't give Claudio a chance to have a real run either. And I know there's somebody sitting behind their screen going, oh, well, it's going to lead to the Garcia stuff. Maybe Brian. I don't care. It still sucks.
I hate it. My whole timeline yesterday was just people saying things that they think are going to happen. Well, it's because of the TV deal. Chris Jericho's a big thing. Chris Jericho, blah, blah, blah. Chris Jericho's not going to be used to sell fucking Ring of Honor, you guys. Stop it. Fucking stop it. Leave me alone. And also, I don't care. People don't understand. For me, I've been watching Ring of Honor for 20 fucking years, since 2002. This isn't most of the people, their first time seeing Ring of Honor was this year. It's the first time they've ever heard anything of Ring of Honor. I'm talking about the history of Ring of Honor. I don't give a fuck if Daniel Garcia is going to beat Chris Jericho for the Ring of Honor championship. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't hold any weight because Chris Jericho has nothing attached to Ring of Honor. It's just fucking an accolade.
I think Bryan Danielson is going to be the one to beat him. But I feel like Bryan Danielson. I feel like Bryan Danielson is going to be the one to beat him. But
it doesn't make any sense because Bryan Danielson lost in the main event. They should have had Chris Jericho beat Bryan Danielson in the tournament. Then Chris Jericho loses to Mox.
No.
Then Chris Jericho loses to Mox, and then Bryan Danielson wins the fucking Ring of Honor World Championship.
Here's where I think like some of us are missing the thing, right? It's for the soul of Daniel Garcia, where it's like Jericho wants to pull him into the dark side of being a sports entertainer, where Bryan wants to bring him back to the pure side, right? So it's like you have the pure championship now. So do what you wish with it. What type of champion are you going to be? What defines you? That's what Danielson's saying indirectly. So, and you can see when Jericho won, Garcia had this look on his face like, I don't know about this. This doesn't seem right. But
Garcia was definitely me. I was like, I don't know about this. This don't seem right.
But to bring it back, let's just bring it back for a minute. Ring of Honor right now currently has no identity, and they have no identity because they have no product. They have no ongoing story. They have no ongoing television. So right now, this is just, you're just pulling from the ethos and just saying, okay, let's just do this, this, and this, just to add the eyes on the championship to let you know that this championship actually exists. And when we do figure it out, it's going to be consistent television somewhere. So them just taking it off Gresham, putting it on Claudio, then putting it on Jericho, and then they're going to put the bigger payoff here is to how to get the belt to go to Bryan Danielson without making Danielson beat Claudio, where you like having the Blackpool Combat Club really just like implode that way, right? Which it probably wouldn't because Mox and Danielson had a banger, but it's to how to get it to there where you want like the feud to really be something. And right now you have the best in the world versus the best in the world for the title at one time, which was arguably the best title in the world. So
and then what really pissed me off about it is he was on. There was 3 former ROH champions, and he didn't even know who they were. He was like, "Who's this Dalton Castle?"
Of course, because he.
Who's Rush? Who's this? It's like,
but that's the point. Like, okay, let me say. Hold on,
as a Ring of Honor fan, that does nothing.
Right,
but that's the point.
That's the point. You as a Ring of Honor fan,
no, I'm not. I know what you guys are saying in wrestling terms. I don't give a fuck about that. This is about the history of a company that fucking I love. That
but nobody watched though. But nobody watched outside of like
watch
us.
Jericho,
because I'll say this:
they don't have a TV show to watch right now.
So, because let me say this though, because where I will say that, like if the plan is ultimately Bryan Danielson, if the plan is ultimately Bryan Danielson, ultimately, like. I don't see a better path to a Bryan Danielson championship win than the way we got here. And the reason I say that is because, look, at the end of the day, like Chris Jericho, from a personal standpoint,
is the worst.
Not my guy, right? But I'll say this. From Chris Jericho's career standpoint, like, we have to recognize that the sports entertainer thing is a character that he's playing. Like, at the end of the day, Chris Jericho is a professional wrestler. Chris Jericho is not only a professional wrestler, he's one of the best professional wrestlers, like, ever. And so,
I agree.
From that perspective, like, it's not to say that he doesn't represent what the Ring of Honor Championship is. Chris Jericho, at any other point in his career, actually kind of does represent a lot of the Ring of Honor World Championship, but the character he's playing right now doesn't. But I look at it this way. If Chris Jericho, like, I think thinking about, again, a battle for the soul of Ring of Honor, which is Bryan Danielson represents the soul of Ring of Honor. He's considered one of the greatest Ring of Honor world champions of all time. And if there was ever a Ring of Honor world champion to come back full circle and win that title, it's him, right? So thinking about any type of battle for the soul of Ring of Honor, Bryan Danielson should be that guy. And going against somebody who's trying to rip the soul out of Ring of Honor, Chris Jericho's character, the one he plays right now, that's the best story to tell. Now, then I think about the fact that how would you get that belt on Chris Jericho? Would beating Jonathan Gresham have been as effective as beating
Claudio. It had to be
Claudio?
I don't
Claudio
think it
was a
meant
far
anything
more.
that he beat Claudio. That's what I'm saying. I don't. Think
It worked for that
anything.
crowd. It absolutely worked for that crowd.
It doesn't like they built it for a week. Like this does nothing for the
But
Ring
that's
of Honor.
what
Everything
I mean,
you guys
well,
are saying, I
kinda.
believe it, I don't,
Like,
it doesn't.
You say it built for a week, and that's kind of true. But at the same time, like it was
That's
part
all
of
ROH
it. But
storylines though. Right now, it's a niche fan base. It's a niche promotion.
No, it's not because Chris Jericho is
it
the
is.
Well, and the
fucking
reason,
champion.
the reason I will
It's not
say,
even a promotion, Reg. It's not a promotion right now. It's so goddamn niche, bro.
That's what pisses
Who's
me off
gonna-
about it, Emilio. You don't
Right,
get
I
niche,
under-
you can continue
I
to
under-
be niche.
No, you can't continue
Tell
to
me
be
the
niche. You
niche.
just bought it for a goddamn bag, so you gotta actually make
Yeah.
some money off this thing.
Well, hey, look, but here's what I kind of agree with Reg on. If you're going to sit on here and tell me that the Ring of Honor title doesn't have an identity, it doesn't have an identity because you didn't allow Gresham to
this.
do anything with that title. You didn't
did
allow him to develop who his character was. You didn't allow him to develop what that title meant to
You
him.
did this.
You just completely overread
The
that
man
to
was
give-
champion for
Hold on,
over
let me-
300 days, B.
Yeah, but let me
300
finish.
days.
Hold
How
on,
many
but let me
matches are
finish
you gonna
though.
remember? What was he? He's a great wrestler, but he's
Here's-
bland. I'd rather drink pea soup than watch a Jonathan Gresham promo.
Jesus,
Cool. But still, here's my point with that. Like, if you don't develop Gresham, you can't then come back and go, okay, well, this title doesn't have an identity. We have to build that identity now, and that's fair.
Right.
But you essentially created your own problem, and so I feel like you didn't give.
but
Gresham
I guess I just don't see where there's actually a problem here because at the end of the day, Because at the end of the day, I still see that a story is being told to get us to the true heart and soul of what Ring of Honor was, and that's Bryan Danielson. I don't see where there's like a problem, I guess.
It's Chris Jericho.
But
That's
but
where
I'm
the
not
problem is.
but I'm not saying that the current story is a problem because the payoff to this can be good. I'm not saying two things can be true here.
It's gonna be good.
Two things can be true here, though. I'm saying that the way that we got here, I didn't like it, but ultimately they're going to a place that can be good. I don't like throwing Gresham to the wayside and throwing everything he worked for a year and acting like that doesn't matter because what I'm doing with this matters more. I don't like that.
That's it.
And,
That's
and
all
to
I'm
be,
saying.
and to
You
be
said it
fair
very,
with-
very much
hold
more
on.
elegant than I did, Phil.
And so, and to be honest with you, if the end result is Bryan as champion, there's no reason why you couldn't build up Gresham as this great technical wrestler.
It
all
wouldn't
the
have
way
been as
for a year.
effective.
No, let me
No,
finish.
it wouldn't have been as
bro.
effective. Okay,
Nah,
okay,
nah,
okay,
nah,
go ahead,
nah,
go
nah,
ahead.
nah, nah. I'll let y'all cook.
Okay.
Wait,
If you're
can
gonna
we cook-
hold on, no, Emilio,
yeah.
nah. If you're
ahead.
gonna tell me Gresham coming into that company and the main guy vouching for that guy coming into that company was the American Dragon, and both of them have been pushing for this match, there's no way you can tell me that's not interesting to get to that match and put the title on Bryan the same way. I know
Bryan
people are
said
gonna
he wanted the
go,
match.
Jericho is a bigger star. He is a bigger star, but again, why did you sign Gresham then?
Gresham's gone, B.
If you
He's
didn't
gone.
believe,
He's
if you
gone.
didn't believe
He's
in
gone.
Gresham, bro, and if you didn't want to give him a chance, why didn't you sign him?
We're not Tony Khan. We don't have the answer.
But that's what I'm saying. That is the part of it that bothers
But he
me.
ain't-
That's the thing.
I
That's the
get
thing.
it. I get he's great. No, he's great. Gresham is a great wrestler. I've seen the man cook. He is fantastic. But that was Tony's decision. I'm not going to sit here and painstakingly analyze what could have been. Yeah,
Ring of Honor's
were they-
dead. That's it.
But no, it's not
2002
dead.
2022. Ring of Honor's
It's
dead.
different. It's different.
not
So what
dead.
did you
I
want?
wouldn't say that.
What did you
EAD.
want it to be? So what did you want it to be? Did you want it to just live in a subcategory in Peacock? Is that what you wanted?
No,
Did you
but
want
I
it to
wanted
live in
them to
a
give. I
subcategory in
wanted them to
Peacock?
give Gresham a chance because if you look at what they've
Right.
done with if you look at what they've done with Mercedes Martinez, for example, that's way different than what they've done with the Ring of Honor title.
Right,
I
can we
don't.
pause for like
I
2
don't think.
seconds? Could you pause for 2 seconds? I see something in the chat. I want to know something. Where is this? This person, Shucky Shucky Duck Quack. This is why I didn't want Emilio on, because he's got WWE stink written all over him. Who is this idiot?
Get him. Cook this guy.
Let me tell you something. WWE stink. Moron. Have you been listening to what we've been saying all day? Who's referencing WWE? When has anybody licked the boot of WWE on here? What stink, idiot? This is what I want to know. So come in the chat, please, and let's have a discourse, because I would love to know why you didn't want me on here with WWE.
It don't matter if he didn't want you on him. I want you on you.
Like what? And using my guy, so I'm ready. But idiot. Well, what's the WWE stink? That's what I want to know.
Time.
We're literally talking about fucking Ring of Honor and why Ring of Honor could be great, and why Ring of Honor needs to be its own promotion, and why Ring of Honor needs to have a set of champions that makes sense. It's not dead. Reginald, it's not dead. It's not dead. They just got to figure out an identity. Could it have been Jonathan Gresham? Yeah, it should have been Jonathan Gresham, because it's the wrestlers wrestling promotion. But a bag. So now he's got to figure out who's gonna do what. Like, you feel me? So it to me, it's like, you've had a slew of great champions, right? You might not like Jericho, but you're gonna get something really cool, and then it's gonna go on, arguably the greatest professional wrestler of our generation in professional, and Bryan Danielson. So you get that belt. Now maybe you'll that's the bigger setup. Maybe Gresham comes out and says, "Yo, you haven't beaten me for it. Why? Why not?"
Well, because now they pissed him off.
Let me tell you something, Phil. Let's be honest. You and I know a good businessman. You throw enough cash at a situation,
I'm out.
situation goes away.
Yeah,
I'm in.
I forgot what situation. I don't remember.
So even if Tony Khan says, "Hey, you know what? I'll fund the next 2 terminuses and I'll pay you this," you come back. You mean to tell me he's not gonna?
It's hilarious.
You don't think you don't think he would? You don't think Gresh would be like, "Oh man, you know what? I'm with it. Let's go."
Yeah, and look, I don't want this to be framed as I hate Jericho, because I've liked a lot of the JAS stuff. I think the JAS versus Blackpool Combat Club has been a great story. I think all of the stuff they've done with Garcia is great. But again, if the big appeal to Gresham coming there for me right away was, okay, we're finally going to get this American Dragon match, I'm disappointed.
But you didn't get it because he got injured, Bryan Danielson. He had a concussion.
Well, that's not why we didn't get it. We didn't get it because they also kind of just
he was out though.
Phil Gresham dirty though.
Yes,
but Gresham.
But one thing I was gonna say, because that was. Because that was the point I was making as far as Reg was saying, was that, the match was just kind of thrown together. Kinda, because at the end of the day, it was still, everything that's happening right now is still a part of the bigger, which is still going to continue, Blackpool Combat Club versus Jericho Appreciation Society, which has been going since April, right? So, this is a story that's been going on a long time.
And it's leading to Lee and Daniel Garcia, and that's awesome. So,
yeah. So, there's places that this is all still going. I still think that as far as the storytelling is concerned, as far as generating the most interest, I don't think that they have a better path to Bryan than this. I don't think. Look, I love Jonathan Gresham, but I still think that as far as interest is concerned, you would never have generated as much interest in it going any other path than this.
Absolutely.
I don't see any other way you could have generated the interest.
I mean, you didn't even try though. You didn't even try.
Phil, who would care though, Phil? They could have.
What about for a hardcore like me who doesn't care anymore? What is that? Nobody ever cares about me.
You'll care by the time the match comes.
Collateral damage.
What about a fucking Ring of Honor original and Righteous Reg? They don't give a fuck about me.
Reg is that old school dude that just sits at the bar, chain smoking cigarettes, talking about the good old days and the yesteryear of his pro wrestling.
He was like, "What happened in the rec center in Philadelphia?
Give me Morishima. Give me Nigel McGuinness coming out with an iron.
No, I'm totally.
Give me Vulture. Give me Vulture Squad."
I'm super passionate about Ring of Honor. I know it's going to be fine, but it's just
but I think if it ultimately ends up being a brand that Bryan Danielson's carrying on his shoulders, are you kidding me? That sounds like the greatest thing of all time.
Ever be mad at that?
Look, and I mean, We talked about it in the group chat. I think Brian winning that title means more than him winning the AEW title at this point. Him holding that title again is a big deal. I just would have preferred if we.
My God, if they paid just for one time Final Countdown, by the way, because I believe what they said was that the reason they didn't go for it was because it was really expensive and they only got like 10 plays out of it, out of what the rights were going to end up being.
Damn.
Listen, they paid for Symphony for the Devil. They could pay for.
I was gonna say one play or maybe two plays, since you got to have beginning and end of the match. 2 plays of Final Countdown, though.
Yeah,
I would.
Right, Phil. When me and you were on the phone, were you telling me? Because I don't remember if it was you, but were you saying that you wanted Brian to be AEW World Champion? Was that you? You were having a conversation about?
Yeah,
I definitely did.
Wait, now this is why it makes sense where his first singles championship post WWE should be the Ring of Honor World Championship, because like Will said, it means more to him and it adds an even bigger onus on the company going into whatever they're going to do. So I think that's the bigger payoff right there. So like, are we going to talk about the World Championship match? Like, or no?
We are. I want to read a couple of these chats real quick, because going back to the last match, Ralph Marion said, "What's good, y'all? I was talking about it with my friend last night. You are going to see little kids wearing "Oh Scissor Me Daddy" shirts in public, and parents are going to have to be like, it's a wrestling thing. Love it. I bought the shirt, and my wife hates it so much. She hates the shirt because she's like, this is something that she's like, you can't explain this to like my parents. There's just no way. You're just gonna walk in with a shirt that says "Scissor Me Daddy Ass," and what does it even? And I'll be like, oh, it's a wrestling thing, and then they'll be like, what are you watching? So let's see. Chi-Town Spurs said that's the point. We're going on the Ring of Honor stuff we're talking about. There it goes. TK saved ROH from being a subcategory
they don't have a
on
TV
Peacock.
deal. How did he save them if they don't have a fucking TV deal?
He definitely saved it.
Reg,
Wait a minute, Reg.
They were gonna WWE would have bought it and just
Ring
made it
of Honor
the rights.
is dead, Emilio.
No, come on, Greg. Come on.
No, I do think they are getting. I feel pretty confident that they are going to end up with a TV deal, just because of the fact that right now, when you're looking at what Warner Brothers Discovery is trying to do and get more licensed content, they will absolutely pay just to have more licensed wrestling on the network.
I think that's the most important thing. You want to know why? Like, networks love baseball, because baseball is a self-contained thing that produces itself. And out of 180 some odd games, when television networks, like let's say Yes Network or whatever your local affiliate is, they don't got to worry about filling that programming spot, right? So Warner Discovery now is buying the rights to this thing, so that way they don't have to pay and develop and put all this television money into something, right? Like, if you notice all those, if you notice like all those TNT and TBS originals, like, they gone. Like, Animal Kingdom's the only one that they're pumping cash into. Outside of like Aquaman being played 1,001 times on TNT, like, they need more stuff to fill original content. So why not buy the thing? So the ROH is going to get a television deal, and then you're going to see Reg on Twitter. He's going to be like, I love this. This is amazing. This is like,
of course.
I'm so excited to be here, guys. I can't wait to talk about
whatever. I don't know. I love Ring of Honor.
But Reg, you can't say that, because you interviewed Punk telling you to your face in tears that he saved ROH. No, you can't do that.
You guys. Yeah, all right, whatever. Okay, yeah.
Reductive 92 says the girls are fighting. Sure, why not?
Shut up.
Why are you calling them girls? What's that about?
Because we all have long hair. Is it because we all have long hair?
No,
not all of us.
It's like an inch now. So Chi-Town Spurs says Reg versus Emilio for the soul of ROH. Book it, Tony.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go.
Book it, baby. Book it, Dano.
Adam Russo says the long and short of it is Gresham deserved better. Sure, I can agree with that. What's happening right now isn't awful, but Gresh didn't deserve what happened with him.
That's all I was saying.
I think more than that. I think, honestly, I just think Gresh, more than anything, I just would have kept him in the loop, because it just sounds like he was And I don't know how much he was informed about, what the plans for the ROH title were. Because obviously he was taking a lot of bookings based around being the ROH World Champion. He does this indie here, and it's like, you're not just booking me, you're booking the ROH World Champion. And all of a sudden now he lost a lot of his appeal without having that belt. I think if there was a plan for that, I think he just should have been kept in the loop, because I think more than anything, he just disagreed when he showed up to the event of what the plan was. And
yeah. And I mean, you guys are not going to convince me that this was the plan way back when they took the belt off Gresham. I don't believe that. I think
Brian was. I hold on. No, I do think that Brian was always the plan, and I think that was clear. I think that was clear.
You think this Jericho thing was the plan back?
I don't know if Jericho was the plan, but I know that getting it to Brian was the plan. And, that's how wrestling. That's how That's how booking works all the time, where you have an end goal, and sometimes you change up your path on the end goal, but at the end of the day, you stick with the same end goal. I think that was clear based on the fact that when Tony made the announcement of buying Ring of Honor, who was the first person he brought out.
No, and I'm not disputing the end goal. I'm just saying the stuff in between. You're not going to convince me that this stuff. But
like I said, but that's booking, right? When you have an end goal, and sometimes you start. What I'm saying is that sometimes your path to get there changes, and you start to come up with ideas of like, well, maybe it's a better way to do it to get here, as long as the end goal is still the same. And I think at the end of the day, the end goal was always Brian. But
no, and I'm agreeing with.
I think he just saw that there was more heat in putting it on Jericho.
But also the situation too is very messy. Post final battle. It was real, or no, death before dishonor. I'm sorry. It was real messy, and you're like, damn. Like, arguably they did give a guy who was the heart and soul of Ring of Honor right as it was closing, and what he did for pure wrestling, what he did for that. Like, one of my favorite matches that I seen, that I actually got to see them actually put it together in the back when they were in Impact, was Macklin and Gresham, because it was super technical and really good, and it had like holds and breaks and why, and I'm watching it, and then afterwards, like, Gresham came over and was like, I saw you studying it, and well, here's why such and such worked. And I was like, yeah, man, this makes so much sense. Like, he is, like, pound for pound, one of the greats out there. Now, you're not getting better than him, but I just think it was just an unfortunate series of circumstances. Like you said, I think it was the lack of communication that was probably the most upsetting. And I think then it led to what happened. And then, like, you have to plug the variable in. Okay, Brian's out. Maybe it would have been Brian and Gresh at Death Before Dishonor, and it could have been the whole thing. And I think everybody would have been fine with it, But, like, the way it led to this, and now it's like, well, all right, we still have Danielson here. But now how do we get him here to make sense? Well, Daniel Garcia, that's the hook. Chris Jericho, the anti Ring of Honor guy, the sports entertainer, the El Jefe of this type of, like, bombastic personalities. Like, he's all about TV, and he's the demo god, whatever the case may be. So now you have these two guys going at it, and then the belt will go on him, and Reg will be happy, and he'll be hard drinking and watching whatever Ring of Honor television we're gonna get. So
leave me alone, Emilio.
Adam Russo says, imagine if Brian holds both world titles. And by the way, for everybody who had older super chats, we'll get to those at the end, because the other thing we're going to talk about from this show is, of course, they did actually two things to talk about, because Saraya is in AEW. The huge pop. Huge.
Big deal.
Rocking. That crowd was
giant.
I was out there for that, brother. When I tell you, that place was deafening. It was insane. It was rocking.
When her name came up on the screen, like, you could tell there was this little feeling. I guess some fans were saying that they knew the song from her boyfriend in his band.
Oh, okay.
Sure. Some said they already knew it, and once they heard it, they were like, oh, we know who this is. But I'd say for the most part, most fans didn't know until all of a sudden they see Saraya come up on the screen, and when she made her way out, just that feeling of, like, I talked about this on Day After Dynamite a little bit, but I was really grasping the magnitude after Day After Dynamite of who Saraya is and why having her around is such a big deal. Like, Fighting with My Family was a successful movie. It was a critical success in that thing sits on a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. It made its budget back and then some by a lot. Now, it didn't do like huge box office numbers, but that was a successful movie. I know people who've said that, just sitting around looking for something to watch, they've watched it, right? Like Florence Pugh is huge. She is.
People have told me that too.
She is a Marvel star at this point, right? Like she is a big deal as well. And so there's a lot of things surrounding her. And, this is obviously just when you talk about star power, this is probably the most prolific woman AEW's ever brought in, right? She's got 2.3 million followers on Twitter. Nobody in AEW comes even close as far as the female roster is concerned. And so like she comes in with a lot. And
she's a polarizing figure for sure.
Yeah, I just thought it was a phenomenal moment and something that her career needed. And
that's one of those moments you could feel. You could feel the energy through the TV. You could feel like her living in the moment. Probably not. I mean, I don't want to say not expecting it, but probably not expecting it like that. And just to her come out and soak it all in the middle of the ring, saying, "This is my house." Great moment for her, man. I'm super excited. I'm super happy for her.
Although I'm seeing arguments now.
But is she cleared to wrestle though?
That's the question. That's so of course the first thing everybody spotted, and Meltzer talked about this, was that everybody cleared the ring immediately, which is usually a sign people. Usually that's a sign of somebody being on a no contact list. And so that was what Meltzer's speculation was, and that got picked up, and all of a sudden there were stories everywhere that were saying, report, she's not cleared to wrestle. But then when you clicked on the report, it was just like Meltzer saying, well, I don't think she is because you saw there was no contact. And then she tweeted yesterday, don't believe the dirt sheets. And then Tony Khan retweeted that. I don't know what this means all of a sudden. What are you talking about here?
I saw what
you can go there's an episode of the sessions with Renee that we had Saraya on, and she goes
look at this plug.
It's seamless, right? It was just easy.
Seamless.
It was super easy.
Boom,
seamless.
right in there, baby.
Professional. So if you want, after you're done watching this, head over to Renee's YouTube channel and watch the episode with her and Saraya. But she speaks about it a bit. She doesn't really go into but she said that she feels good and she is nervous about taking a bump, but she is capable of taking bumps. So
now, again, what does that mean? Because
exactly,
I retweeted yesterday the original article from the day Sting signed with WWE with AEW that said Sting is in AEW, but don't expect him to get too physical, right? And then I always I laugh about that. I laugh about that because I remember that first powerbomb he took, and everybody was like, "Ooh!" Like that. There was this feeling on everybody's face of like, did Sting just take a powerbomb with his neck the way it is? And now, 2 years later, this man is jumping off the stages.
He got pushed off of the turnbuckle into the tables. Oh my god!
No, the best one was that dive that he did off the entranceway.
Yeah,
It just comes out of nowhere, So
no, Sting is just doing all the dives and shit. So like, I had this wonder about that of like, of course, Saraya talks about that first bump is the thing she's afraid of, but man, I don't know what happens after that first one is taken because, like I said, Sting in his 60s with a broken neck is just out there. Now, granted, I know they're not the same injury. You don't have to tell me that. So I'm just saying that we've seen crazier, right? Like Edge is wrestling today, and
Bryan is wrestling. I mean,
Bryan's wrestling. Like, I don't know. So I'm not. Wrestling has taught me over my last 30-something years of fandom. I can't say never to literally anything until somebody's in the ground because it's pro wrestling.
It's pro wrestling.
Right, but I also think we're also socially conditioned to believe that if WWE puts somebody on the sidelines and says that you're not medically clear to do anything, a lot of people take that as gospel when necessarily that isn't the case, man.
Right.
It's a liability for WWE to put somebody in the ring, so they're going to have their medical staff say no. The individual's medical staff can say yes, and then you have a third party, which is in again, case in point, Bryan Danielson. WWE didn't want to clear him, but 3 different medical doctors from 3 different areas said, no, he is good to go. So when he is ready, will be able to do it. And then WWE finally said, all right, we're going to do it, but we're not down to. Now, again, I don't know this woman. We don't know this woman. Everybody in this chat room don't know this woman. So we don't know what's going on.
But did you just kick Emilio? All right. All right, there we go.
What's going on
here?
here?
There we go. We're good.
But we don't know. So, like you said, never expect anything in professional wrestling. And hey, man, maybe she'll do something crazy, or maybe she'll actually just take it slow in the beginning, and then we'll get a payoff. Who knows? I think the women's division needed it. It's a shot in the arm. And she is somebody that if you weren't going to go out and get Naomi and Sasha, well, then you needed a crown jewel of sorts. And I think Saraya could be that, because you need another big player in there, and now the possibilities are endless. We can get Saraya versus Jade. We can get Saraya versus Athena. We can get Saraya versus Tony. We can get Saraya versus Britt. My thing is, when are they going to stop pulling this, like teasing us about this Jamie Hayter, Britt Baker turn? And when is it actually going to happen? And when are we going to get that match?
I think that that's it. And I feel like there's still time on that. And the reason I feel like there's still time is just because I want Britt to like if Jamie turned after what happened at All Out, I would have felt like, Britt's done worse than that. And I want to see like Britt really do something to Jamie where Jamie's finally like, no, you crossed the line this time. Like that was a match where it was every woman for themselves, and it's like,
it's the rule of the match.
Yeah, that's the rule of the match. But like, I feel like Jamie really needs to like be put in harm's way by Britt or something along those lines for Jamie to finally be like, okay, now this bitch crossed the line. Now I'm gonna fuck her up for real. But like in this situation, I feel like it's kind of justified. I think it's ultimately going to come. Like it was the same thing with Wardlow and MJF, where we had that going on for a while. Where there were multiple times where MJF kind of was a habitual line stepper with Wardlow, and then finally Wardlow just wasn't going to take it anymore and finally snapped. And I think you can get that kind of story out of this if you prolong it, especially considering the fans have already shown they want to see Jamie finally just shove it up Britt's ass. I feel like you can do that. Just give it time.
That was some wild wording, my friend.
That was okay. Yeah,
that was
definitely
some wild wording.
This has been a wild episode.
I meant her foot, but
yeah. So,
but I guess the only final thing to talk about from this is Mox is the champ.
Yeah.
Johnny 3 times, baby.
To the surprise of everyone on this podcast, I think. We were all kind of thinking that Bryan
Not Emilio. Emilio said that. I mean, wait. I don't trust Emilio on this because I feel like even if you didn't tell me, no. And what I mean by that is even if you told me you didn't have the inside track, I don't buy that you wouldn't even have at least gotten a little bit of a little nudge in the right direction of like, oh, Renee's here. She's here in the building. So therefore, why would she be here?
He
to
definitely
see
made the call like, hey, y'all going on vacation soon? Oh, y'all not? Okay.
I don't know what's going on here.
I feel like Emilio has been around enough to know what hints to pick up on when something's about to happen. And so like, for me, I just wanted to see Bryan get that moment. I recognize that ultimately MJF is who's going to walk away champion here when this is all said and done. At the end of the day, it's more effective for MJF to beat Moxley at this juncture, especially given his history with Mox, than it is for MJF to beat Bryan Danielson, who'd be getting his first AEW championship run, and it'd be getting cut really short. So
Best way to put it.
Yeah, I get that part of it. Just as a Bryan fan, I'm like,
yeah.
I just wanted to see Bryan get it. That's all. That was it for me. I just wanted to see it. But
yeah, I wanted Bryan to win, but this makes perfect sense because MJF has been cutting all of his promos on Mox since he came back. It makes perfect sense for them to be the matchup at Full Gear or wherever he cashes in the chip. By the way, I had a blast teasing people with the fact he might cash in the ship. And once MJF started doing it too, it made it even funnier. When he said during the Ariel interview, which was fantastic by the way, and he was like, "Oh, maybe I will, maybe I won't." And then he looked down at the Money in the Bank briefcase. I was like, "Yo, this guy's good." If we've learned anything over the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's that MJF is really good at what he does, man. Hasn't wrestled a single match yet, and he's still one of the most entertaining aspects of the company.
I know, and even the matches he's wrestled this year, like that man is still like 2-4 this year in matches. Like his only 2 matches he's won has been the match against CM Punk in Chicago and the match, the ladder match that he didn't even really win. And other than that, he lost to Shawn Dean twice and lost to Shawn Dean twice, lost to CM Punk, and lost to Wardlow in a squash. And yet, the guy everybody's anticipating to win the title.
I think that's a testament to who Max is as a performer, and I think it's a testament to who, and I think it's a testament to who he actually worked too, because anybody that he worked had a big feel to him. Like, listen, granted, arguably again, CM Punk, one of the biggest, but it does things for a guy like Shawn Dean, who needed that, and it's like, wow, oh my God, okay, he is right now like one of the biggest, if not the biggest heel within this company, and he'll always play ball because it makes sense. And I think that's the most important thing. It has to make sense when you tell a story. And like Max they have told a very good story with everything that Max has done. I think Moxley is the heartbeat of that company through and through. Definitely. From the first show to up until Grand Slam, you always need a guy like him. He is, in my opinion, the proper representation of what a locker room leader needs to be. Now let's remove the tribalism for me and that family and who my boss is. Let's remove that. But you watch what the guy does. He is very blue collar. He is the type of guy that will do what he needs to do for the betterment of the company. So he'll put his needs aside first, like going on vacation and taking some time off to become world heavyweight champion and help do a quote unquote soft reboot of what they have to do with their title picture and overall their television show. Because you guys have been talking about it. It was crazy in them streets for a little while. And the onus and the emphasis of how good their wrestling has been was overshadowed by what happened at a press conference. So to bring it all back to this is like, you have to put it on somebody that doesn't believe in that bullshit and just wants to go out there and perform and leave it in the ring and tell it in the ring and make it about the ring. And that is what Jon Moxley does. So that is why this man is a 3-time AEW World Heavyweight Champion and needs to be the heart and soul of that company for right now. And the payoff is sweeter for him and Max because you can do so much just talking, not even having them physically do anything. Like, you can just have them speak and it's going to be a great lead in. And then I think come the pay-per-view in November, I think he will be AEW World Champion and we'll finally say, Mox finally got a World Heavyweight title run that he deserved because he didn't have one in WWE. He didn't have the best one. His first AEW run was during the pandemic. So fans didn't really get to experience this man the way that they're experiencing him now. And then there was that interim crossover where Punk was hurt. We're going to plug Mox in, and then he's going to go in, and then they'll 50-50 book it. And then at the end, Punk walks out of Chicago World Champ, and then we could set up Punk and Mox. Little did they know everything that transpired was the thing. Now let's give Mox that run. Let him finally cement it. Let him go from now until November. Walk in, world champion. Put over Max. Give Max that final oomph as now he is the next heir apparent for the world championship. And then it's off to the races with whoever they want to do next. And then that is my question. Where does it go from there? Who is the next guy?
Well, first of all, I think Mox was the right choice, and I think at this point, like, this cements Mox as the best AEW World Champion. Like, I don't think it's close at this point. I think he's the best. I think that it makes perfect sense as an extension from what they lost in the Punk MJF feud, and now you can bring that same energy to that feud of MJF being anti-ex WWE guys And if I'm sitting here saying that I think Mox is the best AEW champion, yeah, MJF would feel a way about that because it shouldn't be him. It should be me. And so that makes perfect sense. That's the story. As far as I've been saying since probably February, MJF is going to be champion by the end of the year. And I think if you're smart, you let him hold that title for a year, get all the way to the end before January, before he's talking about becoming a free agent, and you let him walk out of the company with the belt like his mentor CM Punk did, and it's going to be great. Or you possibly get all the way to the end of there and do a title match the day before, and that's the stakes.
I guess one last thing, because I know Emilio's got to go here. And thank you, by the way. I wanted your opinion on the opening of SmackDown this week. Because...
That's how you sports entertain.
There's the WWE stench coming out now.
There's my WWE stench, you idiot.
Oh, no.
All right? We're talking about Ring of Honor and AEW all day, and this kumquat wants to has the balls to say my WWE stink. Shut your face.
But that opening segment, I had such a blast with that. You know what's funny to me? I'm curious how you guys feel. I have felt like, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I love the guy so much, but the most tired part of that act really is Paul Heyman. Like, I thought that the Usos were great. I thought Roman was solid here. I thought Solo was great. And then Sami Zayn killed it. Like, honestly, the part I didn't need was Heyman doing what he's been doing for 20 years. Like,
yeah, but you need Heyman to allow for all of that to go on, because I think you have Roman standing there like the demigod that he is. He doesn't need to say much, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you have Heyman doing all the acclaim. Let him be the noble statesman, the wise one, the part of this like holy magi, right? And then he'll sit there and he'll beam and he'll puff up his chest. But the greatest part of it, if you're watching the whole thing, right, it's Jey Uso.
yes.
And when Roman starts to say the shirt and this, and Sammy's doing the whole Larry
Take
David
that shirt off.
neurotic thing, like, and the build for that and how it's been playing up, how he's always been calling himself the self-proclaimed honorary Us. You know, now it's finally here. He manifested this. This is what he wanted. And Jay is the best because Jay's screaming, take the shirt off, take the shirt off, you know, and he's really like hating Sami Zayn. And you can tell that, and I don't know if it's art imitating life or, you know, Jay's personality, but anytime I got to kick it with Jay, he was always just this cool, laid back guy. So to see him do this and really go above and beyond, like this paranoid kind of like, wait a minute, is this guy coming from my spot? He's not blood. He's not Samoan. Who is he? He's not hip. He's not cool. He's just this uncomfortable white man that's just staying here and whatever. So to see Jay really get in there and say, take that shirt off, take that, like he's really hyping like the fact that Roman was probably just going to cast him out. But then Roman hits him with the honorary Us shirt, and you thought Sammy just got presented a Rolex or something. Like you thought that he just got you listen, the best way to describe it for all us hip hop cats in here, you would have thought that it was Kanye West getting his rock chain. That's what Sami Zayn got when he got the t-shirt. So that was the moment right there. That was the moment right there. And to me, the whole thing played out. And I got to run, but I'm going to say this, and this is the most important thing with it. I feel, and a lot of people might not agree with this, but everybody's thinking, oh, it's going to lead to Sammy babyface pop with Kevin Owens as tag team champions, dethroning the Usos, who will break the New Day record as the longest reigning tag team champs, because it seems like that's where they're going with it. But to me, I think we get Jey Uso going, because Sammy's going to do some act of bravery where he's going to put himself in the line of fire and take the bullet for the tribal chief. And Roman's going to be over to the moon of Sammy's loyalty. And he's going to look at Jay like, but where were you? And Jay,
where were your antennas?
Exactly. So I feel Jay's going to go. And Jay's going to become this big solo star because we had a glimpse of that. And I really think they can revisit that now. And we can have a solo run from Jay. Now, I don't see anybody but either The Rock or Cody if Roman would do double duty for both main events come WrestleMania for the championship. But, man, you give me some Uso versus Cousin in a legit thing, and then you kind of start to tease his brother leaving to go side with him. Man, that is interesting storytelling because I was nervous for a little while with this whole Bloodline thing because it was getting tired.
It was getting,
and I was like, what are they doing with this? Because they booked themselves in a corner with Roman Reigns as champ, but it's turned around, and then they add in Solo, who's been an incredible heater for Sami Zayn. Like even yesterday when it was Ricochet and Madcap, and they were talking to Sammy, and they were saying he was funny style, and then Solo ran up on them and attacked them, and Sammy goes, "Oh, I was gonna do that." It was brilliant. So everything Sammy has done has been incredible. So like, I just want to see them do it with that, and I don't need to see Sammy take a bump. I don't need to see Sammy wrestle. What Sammy is doing right now makes him an important figure in the ethos of what SmackDown is doing right now, and that was great storytelling, and that's an incredible segment. That was how you start a segment. It was incredible. Yeah, it was fun.
Love it.
Is that enough WWE loyalty and stink for you? Shucky ducky quack quack. Was that enough?
Quack quack.
Yeah.
Emilio, thank you for being here with us.
Thanks,
Seriously,
Emilio.
this is great hanging out with you for 2 hours.
Listen, I absolutely adore you guys. I think what you guys do for the culture, what you guys do as a podcast, what you do as writers, Reg as a rapper, what you do, I am all in on you guys, and I support y'all, and I love y'all. I consider you guys friends. Please continue to do what you do because you are a vital cog within this world, and you have a very, very powerful and prominent and important voice. So please, gentlemen, continue doing what you're doing, and I wish you nothing but greatness. Honestly, thank you for allowing me to come on. I had a blast. And I don't do a lot of these. I don't come on and do a lot of these.
You definitely don't do no 2-hour podcast.
You're usually behind the scenes on it.
Yeah.
This is 2-hour podcast for me. Like, 44 minutes in and out, bro.
No. He's not doing 2 hours.
Thank you, Emilio, so much. Any plugs you want to make for the world?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I should have broke 10,000 on Instagram already, and my Instagram is aesthetically appealing, so you can go follow me. It's the same hashtag up there. It's at Emilio Sparks, EMILIOSPARKS. Big shout outs to the Mighty Vin. That's my tag team partner. We have a podcast called WrestleRap. So if you want to hear what we do, but a real condensed version of this show, 45 minutes in and out. It's WRASSLERAP. You can hear my work with Renee Paquette on the sessions. So however you stream and listen to that, hit up her YouTube channel. We want 1 million subscribers. We just cracked 150,000. So get us to that 1 milli, and we'll love you for that because Emilio wants a gold plaque. He has the silver one. Now he wants the gold.
Check out the Jim Jones episode.
A great episode. You want to talk about, he's explaining the top cheeses to that Canadian treasure. Big shout outs to Renee. I love her. I appreciate her. Big shout outs to you want to catch some old episodes of Talking Shop with Gals Anderson and Rocky Romero. You can do that as well and listen to Juan Ep with Peter Rosenberg and Cypher Sounds. I think that's all that I have. And also, if you have some extra monies, go and donate to a charity of your choice because that's just the right thing to do as well. I'm out. I love y'all. Stay great, y'all.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Emilio.
You.
That's what's up.
That's fun.
Appreciate it.
We still got more show to go. We're going to keep going.
Man,
Grapsody,
I would
baby.
just say on the Sammy thing, I think it's safe to say at this point, this is the best thing he's done on the main roster by far.
Definitely. Super by far.
Yeah. I wasn't sure, but man, has it really come together for him. It's really, really great stuff.
It's crazy. Just like y'all were saying, the Bloodline stuff was it was tired.
Yeah, no, honestly.
I was I don't know anymore, but damn, they changed.
That's why I was saying that I really did feel like the Paul Heyman stuff was really the stuff I didn't need. Like, I get why it sets the tone for the promo, but just for me, it's the same as it's always been. But like, I feel like Roman feels fresher these days. I feel like the Usos, I don't know. Their confidence is kicked into a high gear. The interaction between, the little bit of hitting the twos and and then Roman cutting him off and asking for the mic. Phenomenal shit. And I just thought everything worked here. The way Roman had us on the edge of our seats too, of stopping Sami, telling him, take that shirt off, and Jay jumping in it, and Sami talking, and that look on Sami's face of like, oh shit, it's over, and Roman really selling of, you're never gonna wear that shirt again, cause I got you the new one, baby.
Yeah, that was great.
That was great.
That was a great swerve. I thought the way that Roman
swerve.
did that was great. The one thing I will disagree with you on the Heyman stuff is, I don't feel like the Solo stuff would have had the same weight. Because I feel like the way that Heyman put him over in that moment and said why he came in, I thought that was great. I thought that served its purpose. But other than that, he kind of fell back and let the rest of them do all the heavy lifting in the segment.
That's what I want to see more of now. Like
Yeah.
I've gotten about 10 years of Paul Heyman standing beside his client and just throwing a whole bunch of exposition at me, and it is just kind of nice that like seeing lately things go a little bit different and find a new direction. It's great. And one of the best aspects of this segment really was Sami when Roman's like, got anything to say? And he's like, I acknowledge you. And then he went in for the hug. And at first the look on Roman's face is, why is this guy hugging me? And he's like, okay. And then gave into it. Great shit. Everybody, I thought, played their role here well. This is a great way to, as Emilio was saying, it was, the bloodline was starting to feel a little stale. This is a great way to refresh it. I think, it's kind of hard, right? That I think Emilio's right, but I also think that both things kind of have to happen. Talking about the Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens winning the titles ultimately, I think is the way you pay off the tag title stuff, because ultimately you can't do the Jey Uso turn while the tag titles are still on him. Right, you have to get the tag titles off first before you then go with the Jey Uso stuff. So I think both things kind of have to happen, and I think they'll happen in succession. And it'll be great shit. I'm very intrigued here. The only thing I'm worried about, and I know the answer is Logan Paul for now, but what do you do with Roman in the meantime?
What
do you do with Roman before WrestleMania? What do you do?
Right, like at the Rumble and stuff.
I felt a little stupid while it was happening, because I was like, oh no, is this when they're going to kick Sami out? And I was like, well, they can't kick Sami out now because they're building the Survivor Series. Bloodline's going to probably be in one of those War Game matches, which, by the way, we're getting the 2 War Game matches at Survivor Series. So I think they're going to have a 5-man team. So you need Sami. You're not going to kick him out yet. But I think this is definitely leading to Jay turning on Roman and giving him the Tyrese. You going to pick him over me? Your own flesh and blood?
Yeah. No, it's great. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Let me read a couple of Humper chats, because we got one from Tony P. Tony says, I hate to be petty, but I hate the 3D models for the Usos entrance. The artists were so lazy and couldn't even have the model put up the ones on opposite arms. They copied and paste. Sorry, an artist rant. By the way, Starks and Hobbs was fire.
That's fine, Tony. I think a lot of people have that thing with the.
Yeah, I think the AR graphics at all. I think
you know what though?
Are terrible.
Actually, the tree looks great. That, I think, is one of the best aspects of the entrance. And then when it cuts to those assy-looking PS2 graphic statues that are on the stage that can't even like stay with the camera, that look like they're floating, awful. Like, honestly, get rid of that shit. Like, honestly, they started late in the entrance this week, and I thought for a minute, like, oh, did Hunter get rid of those awful-looking graphics? And the fact that my son, who is 8 years old, thinks they look bad.
It's bad.
Yeah, it looks really bad. He thinks they look terrible. He comments on it every single time. And Nah,
And he's like the target audience for that.
I know they're the worst AR graphics. Like they're the reason I have a negative opinion of AR graphics in WWE. Like honestly, if you showed me just like Brawling Brutes, Asuka, like all the others, I'd probably be like, oh, the AR graphics are great. But because
the birds are trash too for
Riddle. Yeah,
they
those
stopped
are
doing
trash
it
too.
as much though, but that was trash.
But honestly, the fact that the biggest star in the company, the world champion, has the worst ones gives me a negative opinion of it overall.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I just want them graphics gone. They suck so bad. And yeah, please. I agree with you that they're
we all
lazy.
agree. They're awful.
Yeah.
but I mean, this was again a week where it's been proving what I've been saying about SmackDown for the longest. When they don't have the Bloodline stuff going, SmackDown is not a good show, and I feel like this SmackDown was better because of the Bloodline stuff. The thing that's great about what Sami is doing is that when Roman's not there, you still get the Sami and Uso stuff, and so they've managed to fix it a little bit, but they've got to correct some of the other issues on this show. I thought the vignette they played for the Usos was really good. I'm sorry, to me, I know people were saying that they're the best tag team of all time. They're not better than New Day. I'm sorry. I just don't agree.
Oh, it's going to suck when they beat New Day's record.
They're not better than New Day. And I do think they're going to beat the record.
I also hate, and it's really just on the technicality, because I hate when WWE does stuff like this. But when they were like, the Usos are the first ever WWE undisputed tag team champions, and my brain is like, but that's like a complete technicality on just the fact that, like, they're not the first team that you've had hold both sets of titles. They're just the first team that you've had hold these both sets of titles.
Right.
But you've had multiple tag team champion. Like, it's kind of in the same way where WWE did the they were like, Roman Reigns the first ever undisputed champion, and it's like, but like, you don't have to do that, because I feel like it's better for
Especially
your history to acknowledge that.
One of Jericho's things is that he was undisputed champion. He beat The Rock and Stone Cold. Like,
right, but it wasn't those two belts. It was the Universal Championship and the WWE Championship. I hate that, because like ultimately it's the same thing. It's the same idea that somebody's holding two world championships. You just called it something different this time. And because I think you can still, like, Hunter has talked about the fact that one of the things he wants to do in his regime is respect the history a little bit more. So I'm hoping that he finds a way to acknowledge this type of stuff, because I think it's better to say that the Usos, instead of saying that they were the first undisputed tag champions, because like that's kind of not true. You had other teams hold both sets of belts. Maybe go with the Usos are the most successful team to hold two sets of belts, because at the end of the day, they are more successful than Carlito and Primo. They are more successful at this than Edge and Chris Jericho were, who held them like a week. They're more successful than Jericho. They're more successful than DX when they had him. Like, there are ways you can do that and still put over the Usos, still put over the accolade. You can still say Roman. You don't have to say he's the first ever undisputed, because it's like not true, right? Like,
right.
Jericho held both belts. Hunter held both belts. You had Orton walking around with two belts. Bryan Danielson with two belts. Cena with two belts. Brock with two belts. Happened, right? You don't have to say that, but you can say that. Has anybody had a more successful run with it than Roman Reigns? You can then say that actually all these guys did exist with the both belts, and Roman's better than all of them. That's how I would sell it, rather than wiping them from history. That stuff sucks.
Boy, the other part about this, that they put the New Day's record up there, and then in the same show we had to watch them wrestle in this nothing-ass filler match with Maximum Male Models. What the fuck are they doing with the New Day, bro? I hate it. I hate it. Like, what are they doing with them?
I have no idea.
No idea.
They're just kind of coasting, but at the same time, like, it feels like, I don't know how long Xavier Woods is for this world, because it feels like Austin Creed has his...
he's cooking.
Yeah, he's got a lot of pots on the stove at the moment, and it feels like he could, at any moment, just kind of go all in on one of them and never have to...
And it feels like Kofi has been talking for a while about wanting to retire. Like, he's been, like, I'm getting towards the end of my career for a
Yeah,
while. So maybe they're just like, we're showing up to work, we're having fun, who cares?
But I mean, I do think this is their last. I think this is his last contract probably, and I think that Woods is probably working on his exit strategy. But how much of what they're doing with him has sped up him wanting to work on his exit strategy?
Yeah,
because I feel like they absolutely dropped the ball with him as King of the Ring because they did nothing with him as King of the Ring. He did nothing to gain any single accolades.
I did have a huge issue with the fact that I had to watch King Corbin for 2 years as King Corbin, and I didn't get King Woods for 2 months, and that drives me insane.
You didn't even give him a IC title reign. You gave him nothing out of that, and I think that really sucks. And I think it did a disservice to him, especially because that was his dream of being King of the Ring. I think they could have done more than that. And I think they should be doing more right now. And I'm not saying that I think they should be beating everybody and being like what they were, but treat these guys like they matter. Like I said, this is one of the best tag teams in the history of the company, a former WWE champion, a former King of the Ring. Do something better with them, man.
I can't believe how much the King of the Ring has been a flop. In that, has there been a successful King of the Ring since Booker T? Because 2008 was Regal, and then he immediately got suspended, and his run pretty much was a flop. 2010 was Sheamus. That was considered kind of the worst run of Sheamus's career. Because this was after he had already been a 2-time WWE champion. So the King of the Ring was a step down for him. And then I don't think we saw it again until 2015. Am I correct? And that was King Barrett, which again was the worst run of his career. After Bad News Barrett, all the success he had, they just kind of that was kind of a dud.
We gotta do foreign heel stuff again.
2019 was the next one, and that was Corbin, and it's Corbin.
Everybody hated Corbin so much.
It ran for 2 years, and then Woods felt like the first one. We're like, okay, this could be something.
Don't forget that they made Nakamura a king for a few months, and then they just completely did away with that and acted like it didn't happen.
Yeah. So, I just feel like King of the Ring hasn't had any success since Booker T was King of the Ring, since King Booker.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time where it should be something to catapult somebody to the next level, and it's just been nothing. Now, granted, hopefully out of the Vince era, things change. And some cool stuff happens. I don't know. But hey, we did get the announcement this week, by the way, that War Games is returning and it's going to be at Survivor Series. I mean, gosh, the biggest call up of all time is Hunter's booking because he's literally just called up everything from NXT to the main roster, including all of his ideas. We're getting the Fight Pit at Extreme Rules. He literally is just calling up NXT.
Yeah,
I like it. I'm into it.
Yeah, I think everything they've announced so far is cool. It's just really dawning on me that we're going to be heading into WrestleMania season, and this is the first WrestleMania ever without Vince's fingerprints on it. That's going to be very weird.
Ever 38.
I disagree with that actually, because as has been rumored, which I think is a colossal mistake this soon, but it's being rumored that the headline Hall of Fame inductee is going to be Vince McMahon.
That's right.
Are you serious?
That's right.
That's the rumor going around.
That is a rumor that Vince is going into the Hall of Fame in Los Angeles.
This company. Oh my god!
And so the fact that
still gonna have his fingerprints over.
So not just that, so the fact is he would be at the Hall of Fame. He would be backstage at WrestleMania.
And this is WrestleMania 39, right?
Yeah.
And then he's going to be a part of 40. So we got it at minimum 2 more years of Vince McMahon as part of WrestleMania. You think they're going to have the 40th anniversary without Vince?
I hope they're smart enough to recognize that he's still a very toxic name that you do not want associated.
So you don't want that attached to WrestleMania, like Hall of Fame and this guy, and there's still ongoing investigations on him. That is wild.
Yeah, that sounds bad. I mean, but they would absolutely do it. That's absolutely
definitely no problem. No, they don't care.
I mean, the thing is, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of whether it happens this year or 40. But they're going to do Vince McMahon's induction into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Definitely.
Yes. And that's not to say he hasn't had a Hall of Fame worthy run. Like, he created the Hall of Fame. If there's anybody who deserves to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, it's Vince.
Who's gonna induct him? Stephanie?
Undertaker?
I think they do like Cena or something along those lines.
Cena or Undertaker. I could see one of them doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. But man, this was it was a weird week of WWE because there were things I really liked about Raw. There were things I really liked about SmackDown, but there were also things about both shows that I really, really didn't like.
I forgot I was there.
Yeah,
you went to Raw. That's right. Hold up. I can't believe we went this whole show and didn't even talk about the fact that you were at Monday Night Raw.
I was there.
We sparked a debate about arena food online, and we didn't get the most legendary arena food guy to talk about bringing beans to
legendary.
The show.
I did not bring beans to the show. This is a very different vibe going into this. This was in San Jose. It wasn't in San Francisco. I had to drive out to San Jose. Like I was saying on Twitter, standing in line was one of the worst experiences I've had in a long time. Shoosh and thank you are the worst thing to happen to wrestling by far. You can say anything that any other wrestling thing, I'm in. Shoosh and thank you, the worst. Number one, over deathmatch wrestling, over everything. Shoosh and thank you are the worst things that ever happened to wrestling.
Have we not gone to the three of us have not gone to any WWE shows together?
No,
because this was my first one in the whole year.
Yeah, I've been.
That's right. You didn't go to Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my first one in the whole year. So, but yeah, it was insanely 5,000 times better than when I had the infamous rant that kind of kicked off Grapsody. But it still was super. I don't want to say boring. I just want to say
it's parts
overproduced.
That's overproduced. That I just can't get past that. And as much as I enjoy certain things, it's just like they've gotta come off the reins a little bit, man.
There's still no soul in the show. It's still like everyone's just trying to hit their placement, and that's including the fans. The fans are like conditioned to react in certain way, conditioned to like, okay, this is the part where we say this is awesome. Okay, this is the part, and it's not natural. There's nothing natural about the show, and that you need that for pro wrestling. It's all just like, all right, here's your mark. Say that they might as well just. I remember WrestleMania in Texas. They had on the big scoreboard like boo and yeah and blah blah blah, like cue cards. You might as well just give them up because your fans react like that too. So it doesn't feel like I was at a wrestling show, but it didn't feel like being at a fucking wrestling show. It feels like being at a taping of a TV show, which it is, but it is. It's different when it's pro wrestling. You know what I mean? If that's what they're going for, they achieved it. Like it's a machine. It's the WWE. It's big. It's a big production. Like they got that. But for me, it didn't really hit for me.
Yeah, the thing that I didn't like about Raw this week is, it was distraction, shenanigan, finish galore. Almost every match was distraction, interference. It's like, oh my God, please just stop this. Stop it.
Yeah. Like there were definitely fun things. Lashley and Rollins was super fun.
They could. That was a great match.
You know what I mean? Like
match.
There was some things going on, but for the most part, it's just kind of like it felt like one of those episodes. And it's funny because in the past 2 months, I've seen some episodes of Raw that I liked. This one I didn't really. It wasn't the best. So
yeah.
But we got to talk about the thing that has the most people talking. It's the biggest thing to be happening this week, and nobody even knows what it is. But White Rabbit
right.
is the biggest thing to be happening in pro wrestling. It's got the QR codes are popping up, and people are scanning the QR codes and then getting all the hints what's happening. The prevailing theory is that it's Bray Wyatt, and that's got a lot of people excited. Except me, because I don't like Bray Wyatt.
Man, if you've been watching this podcast from the very beginning, I believe I told One Will Washington a few months ago that Bray would be back, and you were like, "Nope, there's no reason to bring him back." I was like, "No, Bray's coming back," and I just
to be fair, that was under. Look, I get it. Hunter has some moves working for him right now, right? Because Hunter. Is in this mode of bringing people back. That is his go-to move, and it is working.
What's their placement, though, Will Washington?
I know. to an extent,
You know?
that move is effective. And by the way, we also have to talk about some other things. We got some super chats that'll spark these discussions, but Hunter is bringing people back, whether they're people who are under contract other places or whatnot. Hunter has definitely brought
Contract? What's a contract?
Yeah, what's a contract, right? I mean, not like to be honest. I understand what Tony was ranting about at the media scrum, where he was like, "I'm not going to sit back and take this fucking.
I'm
bullshit.
not taking this shit."
Right, and part of it was because Tony has never operated under the idea of talking to people under contract. It's not. That was a thing where even if he had talent who was doing so, like the Young Bucks have friends in WWE, so they could talk to guys and kind of get feelers for how they're feeling. As far as Tony was concerned, not going to do it. Off limits as a company. We can't have that liability. Can't have fucking George Barrios coming after us with the lawsuits. It can't be happening, right? WWE, on the other hand, is like, I don't give a fuck. You want to talk to FTR? Sure, let's hit up Swerve. Absolutely. We want to bring back Hit Row. Let's see if Swerve is interested. And all of that. But like I said, WWE's got to move right now, and it is bringing people back, and it has worked, right? Like Braun got a big reaction, and he's going out there and choo-chooing over people, and it's great.
Shout out to Otis, by the way. Otis put on a fantastic performance last night.
Mm-hmm. Otis is a great wrestler.
He is.
Go figure. We knew that as a babyface, and they took away everything that made him interesting as a babyface.
Right.
So, with all of that said, I know there's a place for Bray Wyatt, but there is never been a more not for me wrestler than Bray Wyatt. I actually think Bray Wyatt fucking stinks. And The Fiend was a cool mask. But other than that, nobody came out of a feud with The Fiend better for it. As a matter of fact, nobody even came out of a feud with The Fiend neutral. Everybody came out of their feud with The Fiend worse for it. It started with Finn Balor, who had to be sent back to... He murdered Finn Balor.
Finn Balor actually came out of that situation better because he
went to NXT.
But wait, he was able to go into NXT and become a heel, and he had a great run. So,
but that came about because he's fucking dead on the main roster.
But
you can't do anything
with
with
it before that because they had him doing goofy smiley face and baby face stuff before.
But then they literally murdered him on the main roster.
No kind of heat before that anyway.
And let's see. After that, we went to Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins' babyface run was absolutely destroyed by being involved with The Fiend. This is no two ways about it. That wasn't
The Fiend's fault, though. That was the company's fault. They should have never put him in that match.
But that's what I mean. The thing is, there was nobody you could have put in with The Fiend that would have been better for it.
But I don't think that's because The Fiend was bad. I think that's because the company had a misunderstanding of how to use The Fiend. The Fiend should have never been in a title match. The second you put him in a title match, at some point he has to lose. And when
the bell rings, that's over. The Fiend's not. Well, he's off.
That was the thing. He's fucking off.
He's all pomp and circumstance. He's all vignettes. He's great at that. But when it's ding, 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 out. And that's just from somebody that was in San Jose for Randy Orton and The Fiend in one of the worst displays of actions I've ever seen.
Again, though, this is a misunderstanding of The Fiend. Why are you putting The Fiend?
Give me a match that he hit. Just let's start there.
Why are you putting The Fiend in a feud with Randy Orton, bro? That does not make sense. That doesn't make sense to what The Fiend is good at. That doesn't add to what Randy Orton is good at. But it sounds like
he doesn't have. Every time we bring one up, you're like somebody. I don't like. Give me one that did that worked.
Well, I don't think that my point about Seth Rollins isn't valid though, because like I said, he should have never been in a title picture, and I think that
I agree.
When you see how hot The Fiend was at that point, and you're trying to get your champion over, it was a terrible idea to split your fan base because people were already behind the Fiend. The second you put him in that match, people were gonna want the Fiend to win. It was a dumb decision, and so
it was a dumb decision. But at the same time, like I've said before, supernatural stuff in pro wrestling is not for me, because then it begs a whole lot of questions. Because like I'm like, look, if Undertaker could shoot lightning from his hands, like why didn't he just like zap wrestlers and then like win matches that way? How come we don't?
As soon as the bell
like,
rings, ding, shoot a lightning at
like
somebody.
if you have the ability to teleport, why would you ever get pinned? Like 1, 2, and then like lights go out and you should just be gone, right? Like there's certain points.
1, 2 lights go out and you're in your locker room when they come back on.
I mean,
like I can't stand supernatural stuff for wrestling because like I already have to suspend my disbelief a lot, and so when you then have to then break the logic of the pro wrestling I'm watching, I can't get into it. And I just feel like, as far as Bray is concerned, unless he has a truly brand new idea that is not anything he's been doing before, because I think ultimately, like we've heard, all of this stuff is Bray's ideas, right? All the things we've seen, Bray is this creative mind who came up with the Firefly Funhouse, all of this stuff. Bray has ideas, among ideas. And I just feel like it's kind of almost like Russo level stuff where I think somebody has been, no, what I mean by that is somebody has been, somebody's been reining that in, because I think ultimately I'm glad he
put Russo on him though. That's kind of too far, bro. Nah.
Like, but ultimately, I'm not a fan of Bray Wyatt. I don't, like, honestly, when I look historically back at Bray Wyatt, and I saw people posting clips, and I shared it in our group chat of like the kids singing with John Cena, and I'm like, this was trash. What are we talking about? But we missed this. This is awful television.
So where I'm gonna disagree with you guys.
We missed this.
You guys didn't let me get to the Fiend matches that hit, or the feuds that hit. No, those Bryan matches were dope, and that feud with Bryan was great. The Cena stuff was great. I'm not going to sit here and act like none of that stuff was good. The problem is that people characterize the Fiend stuff by the stuff that is objectively bad, like the Hell in a Cell match with Rollins, or what it became with the Alexa stuff. That stuff was trash. But when it first started, it was not that.
But it was like, I don't know. No, I guess I just disagree.
His debut at SummerSlam was great. No, come on.
No, I hated that too. He like literally broke Finn Balor's neck. Like again, what am I supposed to do?
Oh, he did the thing, huh?
He did the snap his neck thing. Like, what is that? Like, I hated that so much because I'm like, no, Finn Balor should literally be dead right now, and instead, I have to deal with. It wasn't for me. That kind of stuff. It never hits for me. I don't necessarily feel like it could ever hit for me. Yeah, sure, I'm a hater, as is being said in the chat. Fine. I hate this kind of stuff.
But to me, and I know what people are going to do is, once he gets in a ring, I think there's some wrestlers give you what they're good at, what they're special at, and some wrestlers are not. Like, I'm not going to go to Bray for these 5-star classic matches. I'm not looking to him to have fantastic matches. But when you're talking about talkers, he is objectively one of the best promo guys of the modern era. That's just true. The guy is one of the better creative guys. He's given us one of the best wrestling characters of the past decade. Like, I would actually argue next to Undertaker, like, he's given us some of the best character work in that company. But again, people mix it up. It's not like Undertaker was this great wrestler and we were going to him for great matches for a long time. That changed towards the end of his career, but no, Undertaker's known as being a great character guy. There's nothing wrong with wanting that out of Bray as well.
But like, hot take here, I preferred Taker as a biker, and like that's and you know why I did?
I mean, that's fine. But most people know him as.
I know that's how most people know. But you know why I preferred that Undertaker? Because I was a real person. I didn't have to suspend my disbelief for that Undertaker, because I knew deep down that Mark Calloway was a guy who rode motorcycles and chewed tobacco, and like that was like, I'm like, okay, this is him. This is a real person that I can, even if it's a person who probably would see me on the street and wonder what I'm doing in his neighborhood, I recognize that this is at least real. And so that, like, I was just more into that character than anything else. That felt more authentic, and like it was in an era where you wanted people to feel authentic, like especially toward like 99, where Taker like really started evolving out of being a spooky demon with with powers, and was just like just a dude from Texas who says you're in my yard, and I'm like, yeah, he probably would be mad that I'm in his yard, wouldn't he?
Definitely.
He absolutely would be mad if I was
facts,
in his yard.
huge facts. Yeah.
But no, look, I get that, but wrestling at its core is goofy, man. Like a lot of the stuff we like about wrestling is based off of fantastic stuff. Like it's not real. And so I'm fine with people doing characters. Like not everybody has to do realistic characters. I think that there's room to do both. And those are the reasons why I like Bray. I mean, I'm telling you, I had a lot of fun with the Firefly Funhouse. I didn't expect to, but I loved it. I loved everything he was doing with the Firefly Funhouse every week. I thought for a moment Firefly Funhouse was the best thing about Raw. Him doing those segments, they were great. Man. But I don't know. I just think some people have swayed on Bray a lot because the last stuff we saw him doing was so bad. The Alexa stuff was just not good. And I would argue a lot of the Orton stuff is not good. Let's just keep it 100. Keep Bray and Randy Orton away from each other. Nothing they've done together is good.
They don't work out well together.
It's not good. So, but no, I think that there's a lot of reason to bring Bray back. Bray is a big asset to a company that puts a lot of stock in production value and over the top characters. There's no other place for him to be but WWE.
Impact.
I mean, Impact. Impact can't afford him, but Impact is to me the home of if you want to see
shit would really work in Impact.
It actually kind of would.
It would, but I just think for what he does, their production value isn't as good, and so I feel
they can afford it.
The people that think he's hokey would think he was even more hokey there,
yes.
And so I think it's better for him to be at WWE.
So let's run through the super chats, because speaking of Impact, this one from Bugaboo Jones just had me dying. It says, if you saw the penny farthing bike parked outside the Impact Arena, then you weren't surprised when Bobby Fish showed up.
Penny farthing is wild.
That is wild.
Arsenal.
No, that to me had me dying, because for those of you who aren't familiar with that bike, we're
that's exactly what I was expecting with the big tire,
with the mustache. Come on, bro. Come on.
Penny farthing.
So I don't think this is as funny if that report doesn't come out the same day of him trying to get them to leave. I think
and I knew this would be the transition to talk about that, because apparently it has come out that it's rumored that Bobby Fish tried to get Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole to leave AEW with him, and both said no. And I pulled up a couple of matches that were very obvious why the answer would be no. What was Kyle O'Reilly's last match on AEW television?
Come Tuesday?
Was it Darby?
I believe it was the Moxley match, correct? To determine number one contender.
Oh, that's right.
After Kyle O'Reilly won.
I'm saying NXT. Sorry.
Yeah. So as far as Kyle O'Reilly in AEW, the last thing he did was win the Casino Battle Royale and face Jon Moxley. This was clearly a guy that they saw value in and wanted to see big things for. What was Adam Cole's last match in AEW? 4-way for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship of the World. And before that, he won the Owen. And before that, he was the number one contender facing Hangman Adam Page and main evented Revolution. Clearly, Adam Cole is somebody who has AEW kind of wrapped around his finger as far as wanting to be pushed. Bobby Fish didn't get shit, and so I get why he's like, "Come on, guys, let's go." And they're like,
I could see it. Just if you're just picturing what this looks like, and it's It's Cole going back there and hanging out with all his friends, hanging out with the Bucks. His girlfriend's there. By the way, he's also a Punk fan, and he's hanging out with Punk. And Bobby is definitely standing in the corner like Jey Uso, like, yo, let's go, man. Like, when we leaving, bro? Like, like, what are we doing here?
I could definitely see that.
But he's in Impact now, and like, look, that's not a knock against Impact as a company, but it is funny as hell that him leaving. I think he was hoping and thought that, because of course Hunter made those calls. Fightful Select just reported
Man was saying,
that
I go to war for you, bro.
yeah,
Resign me.
He couldn't do an interview without saying Triple H's name. They'd be like, "Hey, so
Or
what do you
Punk's
have for
name.
breakfast?" Well, Triple H could help me. He would have him cereal for like. Well, I wasn't talking about Triple H. What are you doing there?
Look,
And so for him to
fam.
not end up back there, and
He
end
did.
up
He
in
did the whole
Impact.
Mr. Child thing too. He was like, "Look, I hate CM Punk. I hate him too. I hate him too, man. Resign me."
We all hate CM Punk. I'll fight him if you want me to.
I just think that this is very funny. And yeah, so of course, I think that, yeah, it does suck that the WWE reached out to those guys, just in the sense that, like, I think, like, a number of guys I've heard from are like, look, it's not that I wouldn't be interested in working from Hunter again. Or working for Hunter again, but I am going to honor my contract that I signed with Tony Khan. This is what I signed, and Tony is honoring it by giving me work every week. So I'm going to honor it by, working for him every week. Fully get that. And then there are others who are like, nah, I'm out. And so I know Meltzer reported that Malachi wasn't the only one who asked for his release. I can't say who the other, we know, but the three of us do, but that's not something we could say officially.
Yeah, I can't really.
I would take this
I would need one more confirmation on that
Right.
before I could. And
It just puts everybody in a bad position, man. Like, it's not AEW's fault that all these people got released from WWE and WWE is in turmoil, and now they all changed their mind. So like, oh yeah, you want to be released because you're getting a second chance. Here you go. No, it's not that easy.
Yeah,
I'm going to release you from this contract because they're having fun over there now. No way.
This is definitely, that guy broke up with a girl and she was somewhere else happy, and he started calling her like, nah, break up with that dude. Come, you don't want to be with that dude.
It's fun over here
WWE is
again.
absolutely dirty macking, and it's garbage.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Hell,
the Dirty Mac, and that's exactly what's happening here.
Mac,
Yeah,
man.
and
so- I
Yeah,
was just gonna say on the Malachi stuff. I hope the guy's okay. Because I thought the
Yes.
stuff that was coming out about him didn't sound good. And that statement also didn't sound good. So I hope he's okay. And just respect that guy's privacy.
yeah. And that's what we were trying to do before when the rumor first came out. We talked about that.
Right.
We don't really hit on mental health stuff, and that's why we didn't
It's
talk
not.
about it.
He's
And
not
it's
using this for leverage to get to. He's not using his mental health for leverage to get to another company. Is where we're trying to land with it. Like, this isn't a tactic. Like, this is real life. It's not about some pro wrestling shit. So hopefully Malachi Black is definitely okay.
Yeah.
Yes. And then in the Fightful Select report, it also included that Swerve was asked. So I guess I can say that now.
Yo, this has been one of the funniest weeks with Swerve. Watching Swerve kind of be like, nah. Every time people are like, basically, we want you to come back, he's like, nah, I'm happy. And so when that clip came from Renee Podcast, Oral Sessions, my guy Emilio Sparks, when that quote came, I was like, why are you guys surprised by this? He's been saying that since he left. He don't want to come back.
Yeah.
Like, he has been saying he don't want to come back. Like, this is not a case of he's just not able to, blah blah blah. No, he is outright like,
He done.
Again, as was in the Fightful Select report, the fact that Swerve was one of the names contacted by WWE, and he turned it down. He was like, no, I like what I'm cooking up here. And like, I think this week was the most evident of what he was cooking up. Again, back to Fightful Select reports back in February, we ran a report about Swerve possibly even going to AEW. And one of the things we had heard from people in AEW was that they saw a lot of, quote, crossover potential unquote for Swerve Strickland. And people were like, what does that mean? And I hope this week is an example of what that meant, and that Swerve's been out there. He has been kind of everywhere. And shout out to our guy Victor Taylor Perry, who he had Swerve in the classroom. I was
so fucking cool, man.
That was really cool.
That.
That was one of those things that I may have played a little bit of a role in, but I was happy to make that connection a little bit.
Did the kids end up going to a Grand Slam?
I don't believe so.
They didn't.
But as far as having Keith and Swerve in the classroom, the kids were really happy to see him. Swerve has his picture on the wall, and he got to sign it and have the kids dancing to the Big Pressure. That was just all great stuff.
Wore the hoodie during entrance. I thought that was also really cool.
Yeah, he did.
So cool.
At this point, of course, if people follow me on Twitter, one of the things I enjoy doing is knowing that I pointed something out months ago and coming back to it. And there are so many things that I was thinking this week of callback from this very podcast. Sitting and thinking that our most watched episode is Sean Dean telling people be patient and let me work.
Right.
I'm gonna fix this. And watching the fruits of his labor at Grand Slam, I'm like, yo, y'all really owe this man his flowers, because he told y'all to be patient, and look at what he has done. It might have started
in Atlanta, though. Remember what they did in Atlanta, man.
Yeah, but I mean, just throughout this year, man, give Sean Dean his credit.
Yep.
And on the Swerve thing, remembering that interview we had, the first interview, and I was like, yo, they should have had you at Rolling Loud. And now looking at him and getting the Who Kid interview at Rolling Loud.
Wow.
It's great, man. It's just great
full
circle moment, man.
It is. And obviously we talked to Sean Dean quite a bit, and it is one of those things where, again, when he mentioned the be patient stuff at the beginning of this year, and I knew to take him at his word, because I know how hard he works at this stuff. I know that he is very much somebody who is listened to. But I also know, as far as Swerve was concerned, I knew back in January where he was headed. So when people were kind of harping on the idea of, who's going to be a black star in AEW, and in my brain, I'm like, well, Swerve's about to sign there, so chill. But I can't say that back in January, and because he ultimately didn't debut till March, and so that was one of those things where when people were like, why aren't you talking about this? And I'm like, because I can't. Like, there's certain things certain aspects of this part of this stuff that I do know. I actually love Big Swole, and so as far as what took place with Big Swole was concerned, because people have harped on me for that too. I've gotten why were you silent on Big Swole? I wasn't silent on Big Swole. I've actually talked to Big Swole.
We weren't. What do you mean?
Yeah. We weren't silent on Big Swole. We talked about, we did a whole show
Not
about
at all.
it. But there were certain pieces of it that we were privy to that we weren't able to talk about. And so there were, I don't know. It wasn't as cut and dry. And that was why, I framed it at the time as I thought it was just more of a disrespect issue when it came to Big Swole, specifically to Big Swole. I wasn't willing to frame it as an overall indictment on the booking of wrestlers, because there was a lot of stuff in motion at the time. Hell, the AEW album was in motion at the time. You and I already were like in process of working on tracks when that happened.
On it.
And so we were working on tracks at the time. So that was one of those things where we couldn't even like really go, well, actually, there's like this album coming out in February that we've all been working on. That's a deal. We couldn't say that, right? So it was, but that was why I was willing to say at the time, and I still feel that way, that it was an issue of disrespect. And I will still leave it at that. That's what I feel it was.
I was in a space this last week, and I think that is definitely worth clarifying for all of our listeners, because I did hear somebody in that space to say that the album was PR after the Swole stuff. That is absolutely not true. The album was in the works before the Swole stuff happened. That is not true.
I signed that contract in November.
So that is just not true. Don't listen to anybody that tells you that. on the swerve topic as well.
As a matter of fact, I'll say this really quick as far as the album was concerned. That was the part that actually had me worried. Was I had that exact thought. As soon as everything happened, I thought, fuck, now people are going to see the album as a response to what happened with the Swole stuff. Like, that was the part that had me
that was number
upset.
one for me, as I was like, we have this really cool thing and people are going to just not think. It was bad. It was so bad.
We had email exchanges about that, about how, like, okay, the tweet happened. What are we gonna do? Because now we're working on this. We've been working on this album. And
speaking on AEW things, we need to get into something really quick before the show ends too, because there's a little video game coming out called Fight Forever that has a very, very, very interesting and very cool soundtrack. There's a lot of very cool musical guest featured on this little video game coming out for Xbox.
My
PC,
God, that video
PS5.
dropped. So we were never going to confirm that until it was officially out there.
I wasn't going to say nothing until people got the game.
But the game, that video of the game came out, and what's the first thing you hear in that Fight Forever video of like full on gameplay? The first like direct audio you hear. All of a sudden, I hear ring, 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 ring. I'm like, what is going on?
Come on, bro.
Like we knew what song was going to be there, but to hear it in the menu, like, that had to have been something for you.
I still am. It's funny because I found that somebody tweeted it like right before the last show ended. So I found it right as we were ending the show. Will's trying to run out to go and take his daughter somewhere. And I'm like, wait, did you guys see this? And it's like my song playing. I've still like haven't really fully taken it in, I guess, because I don't have the game and I haven't got to play it. But that video and the response and just knowing that when this game comes out, my song's gonna be, when I used to play Madden and back in the day when I used to play all these games, GTA with these crazy soundtracks and be introduced to artists through video games, like someone's gonna do
GTA
that
3
with
is
my
why
song,
I know
dude.
GTA 3 is why I know Royce the 5'9", right? Like, I didn't know Royce the 5'9" before GTA 3, but he has like 6 songs in that game, and that changed everything for me.
Exactly.
I feel
Some
like
kid is going to be able to do that with Fight Forever. They're going to listen to that and hear Righteous Reg while they're fucking slamming somebody.
I'm so happy for you because, like, one, that video with the Fight Forever gameplay that's been going around. By the way, I want to give credit where it's due. 21,000 views, by the way. But that video is posted by the Game Club. If you haven't seen it, it's got 3 matches in it. It's CM Punk versus Kenny Omega. Big Show versus Adam Cole, and then Hikaru Shida versus Thunder Rosa. And that video is the one going around that's really got people most encouraged because it's the first time we've seen full-on gameplay without any tutorials or anything. You're just seeing how the game plays, and it's really giving people the feeling that, oh shit, this is No Mercy. Like, you're finally seeing just a full-on match go on, and you realize, oh, they really just remade No Mercy. This is actually pretty great. But again, if you watch the video, the first song you hear, Brick Phone, Righteous Reg.
Ring, ring.
What's
ring,
happening
ring.
here?
Don't answer his phone. What's up?
A song that he made because a song that he made because Tracy a song he made because Tracy kept tweeting that Reg don't ever answer his phone.
That hook is directly from Tracy of her.
I was thinking about that the whole time.
Your phone?
Yo.
So shout out to Tracy. We out here because of my friend. Let's do this.
Come on, man. When I opened the podcast last week and I said, look, the most influential black content creator on here. I didn't just say that for no reason, bro. Again, part of PWI, BW 500. You know what my man does, man. Like, if we've done nothing else with this podcast, it's giving my guy an outlet, man.
Oh, and also, by the way, there's 2 songs.
Amazing.
There's 2 songs you hear in that video, by the way, because in the background of the match, it's Go Team by Swerve City, Bonteezy and Swerve Strickland. So
shout out to Bonteezy.
All my people
call me Rich Lotta.
Rich Lotta, yeah. There's a lot of people in the community got songs in this game. Apparently now, I won't say that. But
I was gonna say it ain't over, baby.
You're right.
I don't know.
But
Who We Are, that's a great album.
Yeah.
Get Who We Are if you haven't. We talked about Who We Are for a little bit. It's available on your streaming thing. You can find the songs on YouTube. Like, if you haven't heard the super dope fun project that we all had a great time doing. Please go and find it because it's still going. It's never ending. That's what people. There's been some people that complain about like promotion in this. It's like it's on DSP. It lasts forever. It doesn't have to like if in 5 years everybody in the world discovered it. It's still to be discovered. It's music. It's forever. So
I get that some people also have hammered on the promotion thing, but there's certain things that I look at of this like you guys have a piece of art that is in the National Museum of African American Music, fam. Like that lasts forever. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. Nobody can take that away from you guys. And
we're in the African American Museum, bro. You can't tell me nothing.
I got goosebumps when you said that. By the way, that's
a cultural impact, bro. Like you can't. Again, like you don't want to get it. I don't want to get into arguing with certain people about this when I see it online because, of course, I'm biased because you guys are my friends. But it's just like, no, you guys did something special, and I don't really care what other people think about it. They can argue about why it was done, but no, you guys did something that is going to matter after this year.
Let's go, baby.
Chris Watson says, came in late today. How bad would it look if a new Raw title was created so we don't have to wait till Mania for Roman to lose? Sorry, it's a stupid question. I can't get out of my head. Don't beat me up, please. I mean, that happened
at all, honestly.
But that happened in 2002. That's what they did in 2002, which was, and that was the storyline reason was that, if you remember, it was September 2nd, 2002. It was Monday Night Raw. Eric Bischoff comes to the ring with a briefcase. What's in the briefcase, right? And that was a week after Brock Lesnar on Raw had declared that, or Stephanie McMahon took Brock Lesnar to SmackDown with her and said that officially he will only be defending the WWE Championship, the undisputed WWE Championship on SmackDown against SmackDown competitors. And then Eric Bischoff declared, well, then that belt is no longer undisputed because we have wrestlers over here. There's a dispute. And so logically, they had, and JR on commentary, same thing. He's like, you can't be undisputed only defending your title on one brand. And so Eric Bischoff opened the briefcase, revealed the World Heavyweight Championship, and then handed it to Hunter. And then
Triple H went on his reign of terror. It was bad.
It went on the reign of terror. Hunter gets on the mic. He says, if I remember correctly, he said, most guys wouldn't just accept being handed a world championship. But then again, I'm not most guys. Puts it on his shoulder. And he was officially the champ. And then Ric Flair comes out. Ric Flair says, I won that title 16 times and never once was it handed to me. And so you need to defend that tonight. And they had a match, Hunter versus Ric Flair, for that belt. The official first title defense, and then Hunter beat Ric Flair. But anyway, my point being that they've applied the logic before that you can't have an undisputed champion that only defends on one brand. And that was how they were able to logically declare a new champion for Monday Night Raw, which is something they could do if they wanted to. I wouldn't hand it to somebody again this time. I think that's a bad idea. But just for the sake of wanting to see something better than that shit over here, because I hate those belts. If they did want to just make a callback and pull the big gold out of a briefcase again, I would be very happy to see the big gold belt again. Are you kidding me? I would. If it resulted in that, that would be the best solution for me.
So was there a room? Go ahead.
I was going to say, so to answer this question, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I think that there's a way that you can just introduce a new belt and merge the two titles on SmackDown. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. And honestly, you could just bring the new belt in and have the winner of the Royal Rumble win the title.
Win it.
Yeah.
We were talking about belts earlier. I was reading something that they're redesigning all the belts too.
There's some redesigns. They finished the design of the tag titles, and those should be introduced. Gotcha. I bet you they're introduced when they cross the New Day's record as like a reward.
So it's just the tag team belts, pretty much, because the tag team belts are awful. They do need a redesign.
Yeah, and it's been 12 years. Like I don't understand. That's like one of the longest reigning designs they've ever had, and they were never good. But. Let's see. So Bugaboo Jones says hip hop tracks used to actually tell you a story. I'll take those dusty lyrics any day.
Don't say used to. That's just the main.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, I mean there's still great stuff out there. And it's out there. Let's see. Graham B says, "Who made Hurricane's belt? That thing rules." Good question.
I don't know. Hurricane had a belt.
Let's see. We got still just scrolling through them. Ralph says, "What's good?" Oh yeah, we read that one. Thank you, Ralph. Sorry, we read that at the time.
Eat at Ralph's. You know, it's so much fun to eat at Ralph's.
Ralph's probably means a different.
I
was gonna say Ralph's probably means a different thing to everybody here because if you're from Southern California, Ralph's is the grocery chain. It's the grocery chain. Yeah. We shopped at Ralph's. That is the Kroger everywhere else, but it's Ralph's in Southern California.
Ralph's.
Yeah,
so
Eat
that's
at Ralph's is like a board game, isn't it? That's where I got that from.
Oh,
I don't know.
I
just know the store.
Yeah.
That
Ralph's.
for it.
I don't know what it is in Reg's parts, but I don't know. Colorado,
Yeah, no, Ralph's was that. We used to have a Ralph's here, Ralph's grocery store here. In
Speaking of Ralph,
in Bakersfield.
we got the greatest long-term storytelling ever. Sway was right. Kanye West was wrong.
Oh, Sway was right, dude.
Sway was right.
Sway was right. How
Sway was right.
This is how, Kanye. I'm telling you now. I'm telling you how. Crazy long time story. Kanye has been on a little tour with this little.
He said he didn't just say Sway was right. He said Sway had the answers.
He absolutely had the answers.
You ain't got the answer, Sway. Like apparently Sway had the answer. Sell it directly to consumers. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And Reductive referring to the girls are fighting. He says it's a meme. I'm sorry. I like you all. Yeah, we like you.
No,
no.
We hate
were
you, Reductive. Yeah, we're just totally trolling.
Yeah, just
all of this. Nothing was serious.
Look,
It was the
nothing
Emilio
is
that
ever
wasn't serious. We're having fun. Yeah.
If people were like a fly on the wall when me and Emilio have heated debates on phones sometimes, it sounds just like that. But it's really nothing. Like it's just
everything is all love here. I promise that. I was just talking with Denise yesterday, and we were having a conversation about how, like, kind of unseriously we take things. Like, I know some were wondering why I didn't address the clip from Day After Dynamite that ended up going around on Twitter yesterday. Why I didn't address it on Twitter. I'm going to be honest with you, because that's unproductive to what I do on Twitter and on social media and all of that. And, like, I'm just trying to keep things fun, man. And, like,
that's it.
That's it.
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know if people have picked up on this. I think most things are funny. I thought it was hilarious.
I do. Yeah.
I thought it was really, really funny. And then when I saw people were taking it serious and attacking Kate and Alex, I was like, nah, that's not cool. You don't have to do all that. Like, I think that the messed up thing about the thing we do is that you don't have to like my takes. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like my content. You can ignore all of that stuff, but don't disrespect people. Like, that's just not necessary, man. Like,
that's where I fly off the handle. Like, I get all these great compliments and stuff, and then but one person's disrespectful. They say to ignore them, but like, you're not gonna disrespect me, bro. I don't care.
Yeah, you don't have to do all that. And Kate's cool people. Alex is also a cool people, friend of the show. So I didn't really like where people took.
And like I have guests on Day After Dynamite, and I welcome anybody on Day After Dynamite. Like, there's unless like your whole character is in profile is being a jerk to people, like for the most part I want to have people on Day After Dynamite. That is a show where there's going to be a rotating door. I try not to have bad blood with pretty much anybody, and that's it. That show is fun. I enjoy Day After Dynamite. It is a show that I have fun doing.
Numbers on the board. Day After Dynamite. All it comes down to, if that was Phil or I in that clip, we would have addressed it, because we can't take anything serious. We're gonna harp on things because that's what we do.
Yeah. I would have laughed about it and made a good joke about it. But no, I do think that it is weirdly hypocritical to be upset about the status of women and then also disrespect women. That's kind of weird.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
I think in general, I think that the idea that I saw people, and I scrolled their stuff to see if they had done it, but I saw people who were really giving some nasty personal attacks, and then I scroll and I see that they had like shared suicide prevention stuff from this month, and I just thought, do you recognize Do you recognize what's happening here? Like, you can have a productive debate, but when you decide to start like personally attacking people and
You didn't need to do that. I mean,
telling
to
them
be
to fuck
completely
off,
honest
telling
with
them to
you,
leave the internet, all the crazy shit. Like, yo,
yeah, like
yeah,
Chi-Town Spurs says, "Oh, sorry, go ahead." Because I recognize we gotta go. We're going so long.
No, I was just gonna say, to be completely honest, like, you just don't have to agree with everybody. I don't agree with everything Kate or Alex says, but you don't have to do all of that with people just because you.
I don't agree with
them.
everything Will and Phil say, but we still have a
I
podcast.
know,
And we're still
right?
friends
We
all the
love-
time.
I know.
Like, what do you mean?
I say this is our most contentious episode.
I'm
Let's see.
saying.
But yeah, Chi-Town Spurs said New Day should jump to AEW. I mean, I think I want to see the Elite versus New Day at some point, but I don't know where it happens now. I was always like, that could happen in AEW. Now I'm like, I think that happens at WrestleMania. I don't know where that happens, but I still think it happens. Steph the writer says, even though we've seen it a million times, it should be Usos versus New Day as the break the record. That's probably where it happens.
So
I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think
I think New Day will give them that moment too.
Yeah, I think wherever the day is that the record-breaking match would happen, it needs to be against the New Day, and basically it is the New Day is the only team that can stop them from breaking their record.
Yes,
that would be the best story to tell. See, we love storytelling here.
Yeah.
Although, shout out, by the way, I thought Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and Ray Phoenix cooked last night.
Fire bombs all over. They went nutty. I mean, Phoenix, you know what he's gonna do. He that running when he was on the ramp and he ran up and jumped and did the what are you doing? You're going crazy. And Jungle Boy, I just loved it. I loved everything about it. That Rampage, when we talked about Rampage and placement and how long it was going to be, but I thought that they utilized the 2 hours last night much better than they did last year. Like it flowed a lot. It flowed very well last night. I will say that.
And man, as much as I don't like the outcome of Jericho winning, there's good storytelling stuff they're doing there.
Yeah, of course.
There's good storytelling in that finish to that Eddie match that I didn't like as well.
Brent Lockman. My beef with the finish of the Eddie match is that I think they got to it too quick. I think that Eddie should have held on a little bit longer before they were just like, okay, we're overturning. Like, I would have let that play out. Like, give it 30 more seconds. Would have been enough to really illustrate that Eddie's going too far. But I thought you've had submissions stay on longer than that for having sent out security as quickly as you did and all of that. Like, I would have let that go a little bit longer. See, Brent says, it's tough being a Bray fan. Always felt like his stuff was written by someone who had never watched a horror movie and could have been so much more.
That's what I was trying. That was the point I was trying to make. When you've got it in the hands of people that don't understand it, and he's got to constantly fight for his ideas, it shows.
Yeah. Aaron Busby says, if Bray comes back, who do y'all see him feuding with? Personally, I see him feuding with Cross and having a 5-star match. He.
Busby trolling.
But that's the other thing I'm worried about right now is that, like, so far, my least favorite thing going on in WWE, to be honest, because I like a lot of the stuff. I've been a big fan of Hunter booking. Like, we did a whole thing praising the Bloodline segment, but the stuff that I'm not enjoying is all centered around either like way out there stuff or like the kind of supernatural. I think everything involving Karrion Kross stinks. That shit is awful. That shit is not working for me. It's not clicking. The messed up fire paper spot yesterday, the worst. The color changing, none of that stuff is working for me. I think that Cross to me is having a little bit of a dud run as far as being on the main roster. That the only thing working right now is the fact that Hunter is not willing to give up on it as fast as Vince was. But
I don't think it's a dud run because it started too soon for me to say it's a dud.
But I'll say this too, because I was just what I was going to say, just going overall, was that the other thing that's not clicking for me is Dexter Lumis. That stuff stinks too. And so, like, the stuff that's the most out there is so far the stuff that's not. And then Judgment Day. Not enjoying Judgment Day either. And so the stuff that's the most out there is the stuff that's not hitting for me.
Are we going to be honest, though? the worst thing that they're doing right now is still the Max and Male model stuff. Let's talk. Yeah, like, come on now. It is.
Well,
It's
and
the
that's what I
worst.
mean. I can't seem to trust them with stuff that's not just like pro wrestling. And so that's where
So, do you think it's a kind of a disconnect of Triple H is trying, like, he knows the wrestling we've seen in NXT, that he's trying to, like, I need to still have some entertaining elements over here, so I'm going to do that. But all the entertaining elements are just not really.
So somebody
Entertaining.
asked you in our chat, do you like the House of Black stuff, Will?
No, that was the stuff that. Okay, so let's talk about that. I worried from day one. If you go back and listen to RBR, the first thing I said when Malachi showed up was, and he was doing the like spreading from the eye stuff, is I was like, oh, this is so not in the tone of AEW, and I hope that somebody has a vision for making it work. And to me, I don't feel like they ever really did. The best thing about House of Black to me is Brody King, because he's just a believable big ass dude who just fucks people up. And like, he can have a dark entrance, all of that, as long as we're not dealing in the supernatural. But for the most part, no. I said back then that I had worries about what Malachi Black was going to bring to AEW. And that stuff's not for me. Like I said, Brody King, it's simple. He's a big dude who is menacing, and that's as far as I'm willing to go. But once you start dealing with people who have superpowers and shit like that, you completely lose me in pro wrestling.
I felt a little bad watching Rampage because when they came out and initially did their entrance and Julia came out first, it looked amazing. I thought their entrance was awesome. I think everything they've done to repackage Julia is really cool. I think they look good as a stable. I think those guys look good with her up front. But without Black, it just kind of leaves them in a lurch. And it's like, I don't know what they're going to do to salvage it. Yeah.
And shout out to Julia Hart. Hopefully she's okay. That table bump was scary.
She
tweeted that she's fine. Yeah.
She's fine.
So, she tweeted that she's
fine.
But
that did look scary. But but I like them as a stable and I like them as a trio. But it just, I don't know what they go
without Malachi. They're gonna need to. I think they're gonna just need to lean in on the Brody King being a badass fucking rock.
That's all I want. It's just I just want that's all I want is just Brody King just being a menacing bad guy because that's the other one. Broken Matt Hardy was one I was like always down on. But the funny thing is, for whatever reason, my brain is like, look, you can accept these things out of Impact. Impact will do it and it'll work. And like, that was where the only place where I was like, Broken Universe works for me. In the same way that a lot of stuff in Impact has decided to embrace the absurd and the supernatural. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. Because I know that. Brent says, watching people use Malachi's mental health as ammo in their imaginary tribal war is just the worst. Agreed.
Nasty. One of the nastiest things of the year. For sure.
Speaking of Impact, one of the best rebrands of the year is what they've done with the Jessica character. I love it. Just her coming out. Chant. I love it. She's great.
Yes.
And last one from Van Twinblade says, did I miss my humper? No, actually, I was simply saving it for here, which was Van Twinblade sent in the full card. Ready for it? We've got Moses versus Sway, Tootie versus Laney Luck versus Heather Reckless, Danhausen versus Cody Lane, Rocky Romero versus Rohit Raju. We've got Camaro Jackson versus Outlaw, Sonny Kiss versus Ali Catch, Josh Alexander versus Kenny Alfonso, Delirious and Seidel versus Dad Horse, and Price and Something versus Grindhouse.
That's this weekend?
Thank you. Tell us, Van Twinblade, is that this weekend?
And also shout out to Independent Wrestling. Battle Slam has a show tomorrow. If you're in the Atlanta area.
ATLANTA, smoking on hay. Know if anybody remembers
that's the
DJ
start of
Taz.
Tournament, isn't it? For the new Icon title, which if you have not seen it, that is a beautiful belt.
That's a hot belt, huh? Yeah, that shit's fire. Yeah, what they're doing at Battle Slam is really dope. So if you're in the area, definitely check it out. They're gonna crown their new Battle Slam champion. They have a lot of great talent in there. Shout out to the homie Baron Black.
Shout out Baron Black. Tony P sends the final Humper Chat of the day. And then I kind of have to cut this off because I got to go pick up my kid. But says the disingenuous ones that praise WWE for being the place for black folks at the start of the year, and now talking about AEW as love and hip hop. I mean, guys,
I know who
tribalism.
tweeted that, so I will not comment.
Tribalism is tribalism. Like, at the end of the day, it's the same folks that will. Look, it's basically. Nobody's interested. Anybody who makes that argument isn't interested in progression of professional wrestling. They just like their brand, and that's fine. You're allowed to if that's your thing. But just be honest about that. Just say, like, look, I don't want professional wrestling to succeed. I want WWE to succeed. Just fucking say that. That's fine. It's the same thing as, like, look, I don't give a shit about Android. I just want an iPhone. People feel like that all the time. And you're allowed to feel that way. Like, hey, I don't care what PlayStation does. I just care about what Xbox does. Like, I don't care about the progression of gaming. I don't care that if there's only one gaming console out there, then the market is stagnant because you don't have competition bettering each other. I don't give a fuck about any of that. I just want a PlayStation.
Just say it. Say you're never gonna play any Switch games. You just want to play what you play. That's cool.
That's it.
That's cool.
It's fine.
But just say that. Like, don't act like one company doing things progressively. You don't be that guy. Just don't be that person who discredits when others are doing it, or fails to acknowledge when others are doing it, or fails to acknowledge the faults of either side doing it. Like, that's
Listen,
you're being dishonest with yourself if that's the case.
Listen, we let this thing go for a year. We've gotten things as a collective of people acting like black people don't watch AEW. Listen, their narrative's dead. It's buried. It's over. Watching Jade do her thing yesterday and cut that great promo after the match with Trina next to her, and Trina had the big smile on her face and told her, yeah, she's that bitch. No, it's over, bro. It's over. We saw Fabulous swerve out to the ring. It's over. West Side Gun carrying the AEW title to Rolling Loud. It's over, bro. Stop it. Just say that you don't want to watch AEW. It's not that black people don't want to. It's that you've decided as a black man that your circle doesn't watch AEW. It's not all black people. You don't speak for all black people. I don't speak for all black people. Knock it off.
Nope. Yes. And I think that, honestly, black people I know who do watch AEW love AEW. Black people I know who watch WWE love what they're watching. And maybe like it for different reasons. Like, the fact of the matter is, just watch what you watch and like what you like. You don't have to watch everything. You absolutely
No, you do not.
You do not.
You are not going to catch me watching a lot of this trash that NWA is doing right now.
There's a lot of wrestling out there. There's a lot of wrestling out there, and at the end of the day, you don't have to spend all your time watching it. You can simply watch what appeals to you and let it be. Your wrestling is likely going to be fine. Like, I get it if you're worried about the success of your pro wrestling, then good, support it. That's what you need to be doing. Support what you want to see, and that's what's going to make it successful. Don't worry about anybody else. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. Just enjoy what you're doing, and that's it. I will say, I told the story on Day After Dynamite this week about my love for Trina as a teenager. And I told the story of when her issue of King magazine came out in 2004. I definitely went to buy it. And you know
legendary publication.
Legendary publication, King magazine. Pretty sure I have a collection of them somewhere nearby.
I definitely had the Maya cover, because, come on, man.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I had one of those Melissa Ford covers as well.
Definitely, dude, Melissa Ford. Oh, so it wasn't King that I had nearby, but I do when I was younger, and she's still my number one. But Esther Baxter was always it for me. This was Smooth magazine.
Yeah. Baxter, hello.
Miss Freak a Leak. But I will say that I bought when I was 16. I went. And, like, you couldn't just order these things online, right? Or I guess you could, but, like, then they show up to your house, and then your mom's like, what the fuck is this? Weird. So, so of course, I'd like, so I walk in 7-Eleven, and I find the issue, and just look up Trina King Magazine 2004, just for the cover. So anyway, I grabbed that one, and I slap it on the counter, and the 7-Eleven clerk picks it up, and he looks at it, looks at me, looks at it, looks at me, and I'm just looking down, like, just fucking take my cash.
Ring
Why
it
are
up,
we
bro.
doing this?
Ring it up.
Just
me
ring,
up,
just
man.
ring it
Get
up. What
out
are
of
we
here.
What are we doing here? I just want to leave. And he goes, there ought to be a law. And then I know, right?
bro?
I know. And I paid for it and left and threw it in my backpack. And
You've been
So,
stuck with
look.
this mystery for
All right,
20
did you
years.
go through the same awkward interactions buying any of those WWE magazines with the divas on the front, or like the divas?
Oh yeah.
Divas.
When they switched to Raw
magazines.
magazine and there'd be like Sable naked on the front essentially, and you're like, hey, grocery store clerk, I'd like to buy this not dirty magazine. It's about wrestling, I promise. It's like,
Yeah, I definitely had the WWE magazine with Deborah on the front with the two puppies.
right.
And that was absolutely an awkward interaction as well.
yeah, just say yeah.
I'm glad it's all on our cell phone now. Jeez.
Louise. I know that's the
makes
Look,
things
for
much
those of y'all-
easier.
for those of y'all who had to and I see Lee J in the chat brought up the Smooth magazine. Yeah. Anyway, look, you guys.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, you guys did not have to grow up with the awkward shame. Like, as long as now all of this is on your phone, you guys don't know.
Nobody has to
having
nobody knows
to buy
what my
magazines.
porn search is.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, guys, thank you for being a part of this special extended edition of Grapsody. Emilio was such a hoot to have on and brought so much to the of having Emilio on, and we will definitely
We'll
probably
see
talk
that
with
guy
him
at
even
Wale
more.
Mania in LA. Probably.
Big facts, yes.
Yeah.
We out here, baby.
Otherwise, folks, we will see you next time. Have a great day. Philip Lindsay, Righteous Reg. I'm Will Washington. Peace.